Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. So in this video we are gonna see, what if Saeko fell love with Naruto movie? This as in if you want more then please leave a like, share and subscribe. Let's get in the video.
That's what so many people called the creatures that had once been humans. They had other names as well, such as zombies, the walking dead, living corpses, etc. Nobody knew quite how it had happened or how it had begun. Who was the first zombie? Where did the virus originate from? These questions and more went unanswered. The adults had their theories, but there was no way to determine the truth. Once bitten by one of them, the victim dies moments later and is reanimated as one of them. The virus continued to spread in this fashion and it had become damn near uncontrollable. Them were powerful and could take quite a bit of damage without dying again. It took time, but they eventually realized that them were blind and could not feel anything. The people of the elemental nations also learned that in order to kill them, you needed to destroy their heads in some way, remove it from the body, pierce the brain, whatever, just so long as you destroyed the damn thing. Unfortunately, while they may be blind, their hearing was enhanced to an insane degree. The slightest noise would draw their attention. Them were hard to stop, especially when they were in large groups. Shinobi could use a variety of jutsu to try and kill them, but unfortunately they seemed mostly immune to a great many jutsu. No, the best thing anyone could do was to kill them in the ways mentioned before.
Many people theorized that somebody tried to create a type of super soldier, only to fail and create these monstrosities instead. It was as plausible a theory as anyone could come up with, so most people seemed to stick to that belief. A young man by the age of 17 sat in the classroom, pondering over them and trying to figure out just what made them tick. There had to be some reason for their existence. They couldn't have just appeared out of nowhere one day. No, they were created by somebody, and the virus spread throughout the world as they knew it. However, he knew one thing for certain. Them stayed away from large villages and cities. Nobody quite knew why. But villages like Konohagakure and the capital of the Land of Fire were perfectly safe. However, they kept the gates closed, just to be on the safe side. Naruto frowned as he looked out the window of the classroom. We may be safe, but those smaller villages out there are still in danger. I bet it's like a ghost town in some of those places. Just thinking about it makes me shiver. It's like nightmares brought to life. It was at this point that Naruto felt something hard impact his forehead. Looking down on the desk, he saw a piece of white chalk lying on his desk. Looking down at the teacher, one Iruka Amino, Naruto frowned and asked, "What was that for?" "Pay attention in my class, Uzumaki. I am tired of you tuning me out all the time. What I am teaching could very well save your life out there," Iruka said. "Yeah, about that. Why see, you don't care about me. You never have. You and Mizuki there have also been trying to sabotage my education to ensure I'll never become a shinobi of this village. The problem with that is the fact that we need all the shinobi we can get to fight out there on the front lines. People need us. Besides that, I don't understand why you hate me so much. What did I ever do to either of you?" Naruto asked, sounding a bit apathetic. Iruka flinched at that and found it incredibly hard to look at the other students, knowing they'd be giving him glares, wondering if what Naruto said is true. Mizuki, on the other hand, just scowled and said, "You have no proof of any of that. All you have is your word against ours." Naruto smirked and said, "Hokage-sama already knows the truth. I've given him plenty of evidence already. The only reason you two still have a job is because you still have a purpose here. Teaching the other students. Me? I just couldn't give a rat's ass anymore. I'll become a shinobi of the village one way or another and then I'll be out there helping people. So you two go ahead and keep doing what it is you do. I don't care." Iruka frowned and asked, "If that's true, then why hasn't he just had us replaced yet?" "You'd have to ask him yourself. As for why I am still bothering to attend classes with you asshats, it's simple. I am not here for the lectures and the history lessons. I am here for the practical stuff. And just so you know, that clone technique you keep bitching at me about? I've got too much chakra. I can't possibly create a few measly clones. If I wanted to have any chance at using it, I'd have to flood the whole room with clones, and even then they're pretty much useless. I don't see the point," Naruto explained. Mizuki scowled and said, "Bullshit. There's no way someone who's not even a genin yet could have that much chakra, unless everyone's right about you and you're the..." Iruka harshly elbowed Mizuki in the ribs and said, "You know it's forbidden. Don't say anymore." The silver-haired instructor scowled at Naruto for a while longer before looking at Iruka. "You know I hate that thing, Iruka. Everyone deserves to know what kind of monster he really is. Don't tell me you don't feel the same way?" Iruka sighed and shook his head. "It's still forbidden, unless you want to be executed?" Before Mizuki could respond, a student with blonde hair and her hair in a ponytail spoke up, interrupting their conversation. "Just what are you two talking about?" Naruto's harmless, he wouldn't hurt anyone that didn't deserve it, so what the hell is your problem with him anyways? Naruto quirked a brow at that, not sure why one of Sasuke's fangirls would be defending him. Shrugging it off, he decided to pay attention to the two Chunin to see how they'd react. This should be interesting. Mizuki looked into Ino's eyes before saying, "You don't know that thing's true nature, Miss Yamanaka. It's best for everyone if they stop trying to associate with it." Another student, a purple-haired girl with a slender frame with a sheathed katana sitting beside her, spoke up at this point. "You keep referring to Naruto-kun as an it. Mizuki-sensei, is it really so hard for you to accept that he is a person, just like you and I?" Mizuki, tired of being called out on this, exclaimed, "He's a fucking demon, goddammit. I don't care if I am executed for it, you all deserve to know the truth. He's the motherfucking Kyuubi. I am sick of people trying to treat it as a human being. I've had to watch as it parades around, pretending to be a human and smiling without a care in the world. Well, I am sick of it. Why the Hokage lets that thing run around loose, I'll never understand. It deserves to die." Gasps were heard all around the classroom. The other students weren't sure what to think of the information that had just been given to them. However, before anyone could so much as speak a word, an Anbu appeared behind Mizuki and gripped him by the neck before vanishing with him. As soon as they were gone, Iruka frowned and shook his head. "Rest in peace, Mizuki," he said quietly to himself. Sadly, the damage had been done. The students turned as one to look up at Naruto to see him trembling with his head lowered. They couldn't tell what he was feeling or what was going through his head. After a while though, Naruto looked hard into Iruka's eyes and asked, "So that's why people hate me? They think I am the Kyuubi? Tell me something, Iruka-sensei. Do I look like the Kyuubi to you? Because from what I understand about Fuinjutsu and the various Jinchuriki throughout the world, I am simply its jailer and not the beast itself, but you know that, don't you? So I am willing to bet the Kyuubi did something to you that you took rather personally. Tell me, who did the Kyuubi kill? It had to have been someone you cared about, otherwise you wouldn't be directing such hatred towards me."
Iruka scowled at him and said, "You may not be the Kyuubi itself, but there's no telling when you'll lose control and hurt somebody, and if you really must know, the Kyuubi killed my parents. Satisfied now?"
"No, far from it. I am pissed that you and those like you decided to take your anger and frustration out on me from the very moment I was born. I did nothing to any of you. But no, simply existing was a crime, is a crime. And I am pissed that I had to learn this from assholes like you two instead of from somebody I trusted. Gramps has a lot of explaining to do, as for all of you." Here, Naruto looked at the other students. "I'll leave it up to you to decide what you do with this information. Feel free to continue shunning me. I don't give a shit. I just want you all to form your own opinions rather than continue to follow the crowd." Now, turning back to the front of the classroom, Naruto stood up and said, "I am going to go and pay Gramps a visit. He has a lot to answer for," and with that, he walked out of the classroom, nobody even attempting to try and stop him. Once he was gone, a girl with orange hair and red eyes stared hard at Iruka and asked, "So what's your problem with Naruto-kun? All this time he's been suffering as a result of your actions, it's all because he holds the Kyuubi? I don't care what the Kyuubi did to you or anyone else. Naruto-kun's been nothing but good to people, good to me. If he really was the Kyuubi, I doubt he'd have been so nice to people. Hell, even if he was the Kyuubi, I'd still be his friend simply because he's a good person." Iruka frowned deeply at her and said, "Be careful who you say that to, Ms. Miyamoto. Not everyone will be as forgiving as I am of that kind of talk." The now named Rei Miyamoto glared at him in response, but didn't say anything more. She didn't have to, as one Saya Takagi spoke up. "You really are as dumb as you look, aren't you, Iruka?" It wasn't all that hard to piece together the fact that Naruto-kun has the Kyuubi sealed within him. What with everyone calling him a demon all the time and making references to the fox. He's a human, just like you and me. The only difference between us is the fact he's been dealt a cruel hand in life and has been made to suffer for it. See, there's a very good reason I decided to befriend him. He needed positive interaction with somebody, as opposed to the poisonous words and actions the majority of the village hits him with." Sighing softly, the pink-haired girl shook her head and said, "Very few people treat him with any kind of human decency. I am ashamed of you, Iruka-sensei. I am ashamed to even know half the people of this village for how they treat him." A boy by the name of Sasuke Uchiha scoffed and said, "You're defending a freak of nature. I always knew there was something off about him, and now I know why. Hey, once I awaken my Sharingan, I might just make him my pet and make good use of him before disposing of the freak." Hearing this coming from their beloved caused an interesting split between the fangirls. Those like Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka couldn't believe their crush could say such a horrible thing. They were beginning to question if Sasuke was really the prince charming everyone thought he was. The others, like Amy and Misuzu Ichijo, stayed true to their beloved and nodded along with his words. Misuzu's best friend, a girl by the name of Tashimi Nikki, wasn't sure how to feel about the fact that her best friend was siding with the class emo. She didn't like the boy one bit. He was arrogant and mean, and he just proved that with what he had just said. Tashimi had never understood the appeal, and she and Misuzu had butted heads many times because of it. While it was true that Tashimi hadn't yet talked with Naruto, she didn't hate him. If anything, she felt he was misunderstood and deserved to have some real friends. So then, why was she so hesitant to talk to him? Thinking on it now, she realized that she was afraid of what other people would think of her for associating with him. Sighing sadly, the brunette shook her head and muttered, "Naruto, I'll try to be nicer to you from now on." Misuzu, who was sitting next to Tashimi, scowled at her and asked, "What the hell? I could tolerate you not liking Sasuke-kun, but to betray me and go after Naruto of all people? What's wrong with you, Shimi-chan?" Tashimi glared at her best friend and said, "I am not going to pine after him like you do Sasuke. All I am saying is that I want to extend the olive branch and try to befriend him. Naruto deserves at least that much. I am starting to wonder why we're even friends anymore. You're so obsessed with Sasuke this and Sasuke that you can't even think for yourself anymore." Misuzu recoiled in shock and stammered for a time as she tried to think of what to say in response. Maybe. Tashimi shook her head and said, "No, I don't want to hear it anymore, until you can pull your head out of your ass and see day from night again. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I love you, Misuzu-chan, I do, but I just can't tolerate it anymore." Meanwhile, a girl sitting beside one Hinata Hyuga, going by the name of Miku Yuki, found herself grinning. "So I was right, Naruto-kun is quite the catch, I wonder." Hinata looked at the orange-haired girl sitting next to her and shook her head. "And no, Miku-san, you shouldn't think like that, and Naruto-kun isn't some sex object. You should get to know him as a person before even thinking about something like that." The yellow-eyed girl simply grinned at Hinata and said, "Oh hush, Hina-chan, and how many times do I have to tell you to call me Miku-chan? Besides, don't tell me you haven't at least considered what you'd do with him if you got some alone time together. You're crazy about the guy after he saved you from those bullies ages ago. Besides that, I know you've snuck a peek at his package. Tell me, how big is he?" The shy Hyuga blushed so red that it looked like she might just faint. Leaning closer to Miku, she whispered, fully erect, "I'd say he's a little over 10 inches, I can't even imagine what that would feel like." Miku whistled in appreciation and said, "Now I really want to go for a ride." All poor Hinata could do was blush worse and faint with a goofy grin on her face. At the front of the classroom, Iruka sighed as he listened to all the chatter going on in his classroom.
They were all discussing Naruto and the revelation about him being the village's Jinchuriki. It seemed like they were split in half when it came to the blonde. Half decided to hate him. The other half decided that he already had it bad enough and deserved to be treated fairly, realizing that even if he used his big head technique that they'd still ignore him. And the lesson for today, he banged his head on his desk and thought, "Damn it, Mizuki, look at what you've caused now."
Hokage's office. Hiruzen sighed and massaged the bridge of his nose as Naruto entered the office and took a seat across from him without a word. "Damn it, Mizuki," he muttered. "So what's your excuse for not telling me, Gramps? Don't feed me some bullshit excuse about having a normal childhood, because that didn't happen and you know it." Naruto questioned, clearly angry with the Hokage.
The Hokage shook his head and said, "That's really the only excuse I can give. I truly wanted you to grow up loved by the people, but, as you said, it didn't happen that way. They were supposed to have seen you as a hero for holding the Kyuubi at bay within you. I, honestly have no reason to give you about why I didn't tell you. I am sorry, Naruto-kun."
"Then you should tell me who my parents were, if you want to set things right. I'd start there. I am pretty sure I know who my dad is at this point, considering what I just learned. So I am giving you this one chance. Hokage-sama, tell me who my parents are," Naruto demanded. Hiruzen sighed again and massaged his forehead. He could feel a monster of a headache coming on. After some time had passed, he looked into Naruto's eyes and said, "I can't tell you, Naruto-kun. They've decreed that you aren't to know until you've made chunin."
"I see, and rather than fight them on it and do the right thing, you'd rather bend to their demands. Fine then, I am going to state my father's name and you're going to tell me if I am right. If you refuse, then I am going to walk out that door and whatever relationship we had up until this point dies. Is that what you want, Hokage-sama?" Naruto said, deciding he had enough of the bullshit.
Before Hiruzen could respond, Naruto looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Minato Namikaze, fourth Hokage of Konohagakure and worshipped as a hero for vanquishing the Kyuubi. Only he didn't vanquish it. He sealed it within his son on the day of his birth, October 10th. I look just like him. Only with whisker marks. Now, it's your turn, Hokage-sama. The Hokage flinched and looked away, neither confirming or denying that Naruto was right. Seeing this, Naruto rose from his chair and made his way towards the door. I thought you were better than this, Hokage-sama, Naruto said before opening the door and leaving the room. Once he was alone in his office, Hiruzen slammed his head down on the desk and groaned, damn it, all I had to do was tell him the truth and I couldn't bring myself to do it. Naruto leaving the tower. Naruto soon punched a hole in the wall and shouted in rage, "Goddamn it. Obviously I can't trust a damn person, can I?" "You can trust me," a familiar voice stated from behind him. Turning to see who it was, Naruto was a little surprised to see Shizuka Marikawa standing there, smiling kindly at him. "Shizuka-chan?"
The beautiful blonde medic shinobi hugged him tight, pressing his head against her bountiful bosom. "It's okay, Naruto-kun, do you remember what I told you before? You can come talk to me anytime. If something's troubling you, I'll always be there to lend an ear, okay?" Naruto blushed fiercely as he slowly freed himself from Shizuka's hold. "Thanks, Shizuka-chan, but aren't you needed at the hospital?" The blonde tapped her finger against her chin and asked, "Am I? I can't seem to recall." Sighing softly, Naruto said, "Forget it, can we go somewhere and talk? It might be nice to have somebody to vent to." Shizuka smiled brightly at this and nodded her head, "Of course. Let's go to Ramen Ichiraku. If I remember right, that's your favorite place to eat it in the village, right?" Naruto smiled sadly and said, "More like one of the only places that'll serve me and treat me right. The only other places to eat are Yakiniku-Q and the dango place Anko-chan frequents." The beautiful medic looked at Naruto sadly and said, "Well then, maybe I'll have to treat you to one of my meals someday. I can cook pretty well, you know. I am sure you'd like some of my dishes." The spiky-haired teen looked at Shizuka for a moment and chuckled softly. "You're sweet, Shizu-chan. Come on, we should get going," he said before leading her to his favorite eatery in the village. After arriving at the ramen stand and placing their orders, Shizuka asked, "So what's the matter, Naruto-kun? Something was obviously bothering you earlier." "I finally learned why I am so hated in the village, from one of the asshole teachers I told you guys about," Naruto said, looking pointedly at the Ichiraku family and Shizuka. "Then again, I am pretty sure you all knew and didn't tell me about it, am I right?" Shizuka frowned and tapped her finger against her chin as she looked up and thought, "You're hated? By who?" Tucci sighed and facepalmed himself. "Damn near everyone in the village, Marikawa-san. And yes, Naruto-kun, you and others your age are the only ones who weren't aware. If it wasn't for the fact the third made a law forbidding it, we would have told you so much sooner." Naruto sighed and nodded his head. "I am not surprised. As soon as Mizuki announced it in front of the whole classroom, an Anbu came and took him away. I doubt we'll be seeing him again." The elder Ichiraku frowned and asked, "Just what did he say, Naruto-kun? And how did your classmates take the news?" The spiky-haired teen shook his head and said, somewhat in disbelief, "Mizuki Teme told everyone that I am the Kyuubi. As for how they took it, hell if I know. I left to go and confront the old man." Tucci looked worried as he asked, "What did the third say to you?" "He didn't even try to excuse why he hid the Kyuubi from me all this time. Then when I asked him who my parents were, he wouldn't tell me, so I told him I'd tell him who I think my father is. Knowing what I do now, and he could either confirm or deny it, he didn't say a thing, so I left. He seems insistent that he can't tell me because the councils have forbidden it. The Hokage has all the power, not them," Naruto explained angrily. Shizuka blinked and asked, "Really? I thought you already knew. I mean, it was no secret to anyone that Minato-kun and Kushina-chan were happy as can be when they knew they were going to have you. I mean, it's pretty obvious just by looking at you who your parents were." Chuki facepalmed again and said, "You're not good at keeping secrets, are you, Marikawa-san?" Sighing softly, he looked into Naruto's eyes and said, "The councils didn't want you to know who your parents were, nor did they want you to get your inheritance or anything. Then they made sure to have the Uzumaki clan wiped from the village's history, just to keep you from realizing how important you are. They wanted everything stripped from you the moment you were revealed to house the Kyuubi." The busty medic Nin frowned sadly and shook her head. "That's terrible. If I had known all of that, I would have told you everything. Naruto-kun, I don't care what the councils think. So here's the truth. Your parents were Minato Namikaze and a wonderful person known as Kushina Uzumaki. I am sure they've left quite the inheritance for you, so I'll go with you to get what's yours from the Hokage, and if he doesn't hand it over, I'll have to tell him no more free checkups for him. I am sure hell listen then. Naruto sweat dropped and said, yeah, somehow I doubt that hell care much about that, Shizuka-chan, but thank you. Turning away from her, Naruto placed his order and waited patiently for Chuki and Ayame to bring it to him. Sadly, he wouldn't be able to enjoy it as an Anbu entered and informed the four of them that they were to be at the village square in a matter of minutes. Sighing softly, Naruto stood up and took Shizuka's hand in his. Come on guys, let's go see what this is about.
Shizuka blushed slightly at the contact, but smiled at her younger companion as she walked with him and the Ichirakus to their destination. Upon arrival, they saw that almost the entire village was there, watching the strange sight that was a bloody and broken Mizuki pinned in place with a sword positioned at his throat. Well, this isn't at all what I was expecting, the medic Nin said. I figured this would happen the moment he revealed his version of the truth to the entire classroom, Naruto said with an uncaring shrug of his shoulders. Before any more could be said, they were caught off guard when a rather ample-chested girl glomped onto Naruto's back and whispered huskily in his ear. Why hello again Naruto-kun. I was wondering where you got off to. Naruto blushed deeply as he said, Hi Miku-chan, is there some reason you're clinging to me like this? Why Naruto-kun? You act like you don't enjoy this, Miku teased. Besides, is it wrong for a girl to be affectionate with her future husband? I assure you, I have plenty to offer you. The blonde's eyes widened as he felt her rubbing her bountiful breasts against his back. Shocked by what she said, he turned to ask her what she meant, only for her to claim his lips with hers, taking his first kiss in the process. When they separated moments later, he was blushing badly and struggled to formulate words to respond to what she had just done. Giggling to herself, Miku started snaking her hands downwards from his chest, only to receive a harsh whack to the back of the head. Turning to see who had hit her, she pouted upon seeing Saeko Busujima standing there with her sheathed katana. Behave yourself Yuki-san. Are you okay Naruto-kun? Miku pouted cutely, but relented regardless. Seeing this, Naruto said, thanks Saeko-san. How did everyone take the news? Saeko tapped her katana against her shoulder and said, well, I'd say about half of the class is against you now. While the others are supportive, the Uchiha runt seems to like the idea of controlling you like a mindless animal once he awakens his Sharingan. I think I'd like to pluck out his eyes once he's awakened them and make sure they're put to a more productive use. His comment seems to have turned half of his fangirls against him, while the other half are still avid supporters for some reason. So don't be surprised if some of his fangirls come up to you later to apologize or something. Then you've got Iruka. Sighing, she palmed her face and said, he still thinks you're a problem that needs to be dealt with. When Rei-san spoke out in your defense, he warned her to be careful about saying such things to him or anyone else. I think he has a point though. Sadly, your supporters need to be cautious about who they say certain things in front of. I thought Rei-chan was still upset with me after my argument with Takashi. Why's she defending me, all of a sudden? Naruto wondered aloud. Miku poked his cheek and said, dummy, it's because she can't decide who she likes more. You or Takashi. Personally, I think you're the better catch. After all, you're a pretty special person with a little something special. I think you're sexy. Naruto blushed fiercely again, but decided to try and ignore the wonderful sensation her breasts made when rubbing against his back. Thank you, Miku-chan, but, can you please stop? People are staring. The orange-haired girl looked around to see that a bunch of people were, indeed, staring at them, sticking her tongue out at them. She then kissed Naruto on the cheek and said, so what? Let them stare, I don't care what they think. The blonde smiled thankfully at her, but before he could say anything, Hinata walked up with Rei. The two of them pried Miku off of Naruto with matching size. How are you holding up, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, deciding she'd push through her nerves and speak without a fucking stutter. Now wasn't the time for such a thing, after all. Naruto shrugged and said, I am alright. Kind of surprised to hear not everybody's against me. Faith in people has been restored, he joked. Hinata giggled and said, I am glad to hear it, Naruto-kun. I assume you know why we've been called here? The blonde simply nodded and pointed to Mizuki. I am pretty sure he's about to be publicly executed. It was hinted that there was a law forbidding people from talking about me and my connection to the fox, so I am pretty sure he's toast. Hinata nodded in understanding, but before she could say anything, Rei walked up and poked him on the cheek. Are you sure you're holding up okay, Naruto-kun? Did you get the answers you were hoping for from the Hokage? Naruto sighed and shook his head. Nope. Tried to get him to at least tell me who my parents were and he wouldn't even give me that much. Pops and Shizu-chan here had to tell me the truth. Rei and the others scowled as they heard this. Saeko asked, why would he hide your parents' identities from you? That doesn't make any sense. Tucci sighed and spoke up at this point. It's best not to discuss it here. I suggest that, if you want to know the truth, you all come by my stand later, we can talk about it there. The girls each nodded before noticing some more girls walking up to them. Rei sighed as she noticed Takashi walking up behind them with a noticeable frown on his face. At this point, she was kind of regretting the promise she had made to Takashi when they were children. While Takashi was a nice enough guy, he was a bit wishy-washy and didn't have the same kind of confidence that others his age had. At the same time, however, while she still cared for Takashi, she had found herself growing incredibly fond of Naruto as they all got to know each other better. She just felt drawn to him and she found that she couldn't really put it into words. Rei just knew that she was falling for him and was taking less of an interest in Takashi every day. Besides, Takashi was clinging to that promise, believing that everything would be okay between them because of it. It was getting to be kind of irritating, if she had to be brutally honest. As the group reached them, one of the girls, Tashimi Nikki, spoke up. Hello there, Naruto-kun. I know we haven't talked before, but I am Tashimi Nikki. I wanted to get to know you and see if we could maybe be friends. Naruto quirked a brow at her and asked, aren't you and your friend Sasuke fangirls though? Why would you want anything to do with me? It's not out of pity, is it? Tashimi scowled and shook her head. Oh hell no. Masuzu-chan might like Sasuke, but I just don't see the appeal in a guy like that. I told her earlier that until she can pull her head out of her ass, she and I can't be friends. Besides, I only hesitated in approaching you before out of my friendship for her. You could say I am curious about you, Naruto-kun. So yes, I'd like to be friends, and it's not out of pity. Naruto smiled at her and nodded his head in thanks. Thanks Tashimi-san. None of that san stuff, just call me Tashimi-chan, she said with a smile on her face. Chuckling softly, Naruto nodded before turning his gaze to Sakura and Ino. You two look horrible, what happened? Sakura sighed and said, we're sorry, Naruto. I am especially sorry for all the times I hit you and badmouthed you in an effort to please Sasuke. I fell in with the crowd, but that's really no excuse. I'll be honest. I'd probably still be mixed in with the wrong crowd if not for the fact Sasuke said what he did. I can't see what I ever saw in him.
Ino nodded and said, yeah, there's something seriously wrong with that creep, and I am sorry for hurting you too, Naruto. We'd like to start over and be your friends. That sound good to you? 'Cause I am not leaving until you agree to become our friend. Naruto chuckled a bit and said, I have no problem with that. I never hated either of you. And Sakura-chan, just so you know for future reference, I like your forehead. You shouldn't feel the need to hide it away. It's one of your best features.
Sakura blushed badly at hearing this. Looking hopefully into his eyes, she asked, it is? Really? The blonde nodded and gave her a bright smile. Of course it is. I don't understand why other people have picked on you so much for it. You're beautiful as you are.
At hearing this, Sakura threw her arms around Naruto and buried her face in his chest as she began to cry. Thank you so much.
Ino smirked at this and looked Naruto in the eyes. Careful there big guy. Say any more and she's likely to fall for you, she teased. Naruto chuckled softly and simply hugged Sakura back, gently running his fingers through her long, pink hair. I wouldn't complain about that. Might be nice to get that kind of attention, he joked back. Ino couldn't help but smirk a bit more as she looked him in the eyes. Okay. I can definitely see the appeal now. We're going to get along great, Naruto. I am certain of it. The spiky-haired teen nodded before looking at Takashi. How's it going, Taka? Takashi sighed and shook his head. It's going. I really have no idea what to think about any of this. That guy really thinks you're the Kyuubi. Far as I know, you're just another regular guy. Just like the rest of us guys. I don't care if you house the damn thing inside you or not. Naruto shrugged and let Sakura go so she could move back to Ino's side. Looking Takashi in the eyes, he said, thanks, anyways, looks like the show's about to start. Turning as one, they listened as the Hokage began to speak. For too long now, I've sat by and watched as time after time after time, you have broken my law that I set into place 17 years ago. I strictly forbade anyone from mentioning Naruto Uzumaki and his status to anyone. So many of you broke my law and managed to convince your children, your relatives, your friends, and everyone else you could think of that Naruto Uzumaki is the Kyuubi. I let you get away with this because the councils always protected you. Earlier today, Mizuki, Chunin Academy teacher for Naruto-kun's class, told all of his students that Naruto is the Kyuubi. Since I am sure a great many of you are under the misconception that Naruto is in fact the Kyuubi, let me clear something up for you. Hiruzen said before he held up a storage scroll and a kunai. I am going to show you something. Then I am going to ask you a question. It's a very simple question that almost all of you should be able to answer correctly. Taking the kunai, he sealed it within the scroll before letting the scroll fall to the ground. Now, I sealed the kunai into the scroll. Does this make the scroll the kunai? One man was stupid enough to say, of course not. But what does this have to do with that boy being the demon? I mean, it's obvious that he's the Kyuubi itself. Who are you to tell us otherwise? Needless to say, he was soon executed by an Anbu before she vanished into the shadows once again. Hiruzen sighed and shook his head in disappointment. Obviously you don't understand. What the fourth did was seal the Kyuubi within his son. Minato's son was to be the scroll that contained the kunai. They are not one in the same, and yes, you have been abusing and hating the fourth's child. Now you will all see the price of betraying Minato-kun's wishes. Motioning towards his Anbu, one of them approached Mizuki and lifted his head up so everyone could watch as the Anbu slit his throat and let him bleed out, thrashing around in anguish. Once Mizuki was confirmed dead, the Hokage looked at the gathered crowd and said, "You should be disgusted with yourselves, to think I have allowed the councils to push me around for so long. I am ashamed of myself. From now on, if any of you try anything stupid like Mizuki and that man, you will be executed on the spot. We have enough to deal with them lurking outside the walls. We don't need to be attacking one of our own." And with that, Hiruzen and his Anbu returned to his office, leaving the dead bodies there as a continual message to the people. Their shit would no longer be tolerated. Once they were gone, Naruto just knew he was going to be bombarded with questions, so with a sigh, he looked at Tucci and asked, "Think your stand's big enough for the whole group?" Tucci chuckled and said, "Follow me, I'll take you all to my house. It's more than big enough for all of you." Thanking him, the group followed after him, eager to hear the truth straight from Naruto's mouth. As they walked, Miku couldn't help but stare hungrily at Naruto. "Oh, you make quite the fine catch indeed, Naruto Uzumaki. I am going to enjoy making you fall for me." Noticing her lustful looks towards Naruto, Saeko bonked her on the head again and said, "Behave yourself, Yuki-san. First, ow. Second, why do you even care? You rarely talk to the guy," Miku asked indignantly. Saeko simply grinned at her and said, "Because he interests me." Miku said before shrugging carelessly, "Whatever, just know that I am going to make him mine. I wouldn't mind sharing though," she said with a grin. Saeko simply sighed, but found herself smiling at the thought. "Naruto Uzumaki, you're quite the interesting one."
Toichi's house. Naruto was seated between Shizuka Marikawa and Ayame Ichiraku, the two of them working to keep the girls from mobbing him. Staring at the gathered group of people, mostly girls, he asked, "So what do you want to talk about first?"
Sakura was the first one to speak up. Did you really mean what you said before? About me, I mean." The blonde blinked in shock. "Seriously? That's what you want to know, more than anything else?" Seeing her nod, he chuckled softly and said, "I meant every word. I think you're charming as you are, forehead and everything."
The Pinkett blushed badly and suddenly found the floor very interesting to stare at. Seeing this, Ino giggled and poked her friend's forehead. "Ah, is somebody getting a crush? So cute," she teased. Sakura simply punched her friend lightly in the arm and said, "Shut up."
Ino simply giggled and hugged Sakura against her. "You know I love you, Sakura, you're my best friend."
"I know, thanks," Sakura replied. "Okay, seriously, any questions you want me to answer or anything?" Naruto questioned, getting everyone's attention again. "Is it true that your dad's the fourth Hokage?" Takashi asked. "Apparently, I kind of figured as much," Naruto said with a shrug of his shoulders, "and yes, he sealed the Kyuubi within his own son. I am kind of surprised you all aren't trying to avoid me. So many people think I am a freak of nature that I got kind of used to it." Saya frowned at him and walked up to him. Reaching up, she flicked him in the forehead hard and said, "That's stupid of you, and you know it. Screw what other people say about you. You're still my favorite blonde knucklehead, and how could you think I, of all people, would abandon you simply for knowing you hold the fox? I thought you knew me better than that."
Naruto chuckled ruefully and said, "Thanks Saya-chan, I appreciate that." "As well you should," she said before she tilted his head up and kissed him on the forehead, there.
Naruto blushed a healthy shade of red and watched as Saya sat back down in her original position. Chuckling softly, he looked around at everyone and asked, "So, what are your thoughts?" Ray frowned for a moment and asked, "Do you know who your mother was? Or what she was like?"
Naruto shook his head and said, "All I know is her name was Kushina. I honestly don't know anything about her yet."
Chuki spoke up at this point as he started handing out refreshments to everybody. "Kushina-chan was a frequent customer of mine. She was a ramen addict, similar to you, Naruto-kun. She was so ecstatic when she learned she was pregnant with you. She also had a nasty temper on her. Oh, the stories I heard from and about her. Chuckling, he walked up to Naruto and patted him on the head. You would have loved her.
Naruto smiled and nodded his head. Thanks, Pops. Looking at the others, the blonde frowned for a moment before he asked, seriously though, why are all of you here, talking to me? I get that you don't hate me or anything, but... Tashimi smiled at him and said, like I said before, I want to be your friend. I think that's what we all want. Though I get the feeling some among us would like to be more than friends. Giggling a bit, she sent knowing looks at a few of the girls. The spiky-haired teen blushed and scratched at his whiskered cheek. I see, that would certainly explain some things, but, I can't just choose one person to be with if it comes down to that. I would hate to break anyone's heart. Shizuka smiled at him and said, then don't, you can be with more than one girl, you know. Besides, as the last of your clan, it would make sense in a way for you to be with multiple women, and knowing you, you'd care for each and every one of them. You could all be happy and smiling together and oh, it just sounds so wonderful. Naruto blinked a couple of times before saying, that's right, you guys did mention something about an Uzumaki clan before, so I am the last of the clan, huh? Damn. Yep, and your father was studying them before the night of the Kyuubi attack. He was trying so hard to solve the mystery and hopefully find a permanent cure or solution. Sadly, nobody knows what became of his research, personally. I think Danzo took his notes and did something with them. That old bastard would definitely do something like that, especially if it meant he could somehow weaponize them and use them to further his own goals. His main goal, however, is to become Hokage, no matter what he has to do, Tucci explained. The blonde scowled and clenched his fist tight. Then I know one person I'll need to deal with soon. Looking around at everyone, he sighed softly and smiled kindly at them. Anyways, thanks, I don't deserve such kindness. Yes you do, Hinata said. You're a good person, Naruto-kun. You more than deserve to have good things happen in your life. I mean, you saved me, after all. Why do you think I like you?
Naruto blushed and said, I don't know. I really didn't think anyone felt that way about me. I am the outcast with very few friends. I didn't think anyone really cared.
Shizuka smiled and shook her head. Enough about that. Would anyone like some wine? Wine sounds lovely right now.
Chuki sweat dropped again and said, Marikawa-san, I don't have any wine. Besides, this is my house and they are still just teenagers. They aren't permitted to drink any until they are at least genin.
Really? That's a shame, Shizuka said, tapping her finger against her chin. Oh well. Looking at Naruto, she leaned against him and smiled brightly. You're so warm. Once more, Naruto's face erupted in a blush as he muttered, thanks. It was at this point that a knock sounded on the door. Opening it, Tucci was surprised to see the Hokage standing there in the doorway. Letting him in, he watched as the old man approached Naruto.
Looking into the blonde's eyes, Hiruzen sighed sadly before saying, hello, Naruto-kun, I know you probably don't want to see me right now, but I brought this for you. Rifling through his pockets, he pulled out a large scroll and handed it to the blonde. That scroll contains numerous other scrolls and items that belong to your parents. I am also giving you your parents' home. Well, one of them. The other one was destroyed during the Kyuubi attack. They decided to leave you a home that I kept from you for too long. I am sorry.
Before Naruto could say anything, Ray shouted, why the hell would you keep such a thing from him in the first place? Didn't you feel that Naruto-kun deserved a proper home? I've seen the apartment he lives in, and it's not pretty. I am amazed you let Naruto-kun live there, considering how bad it is. Takashi placed a hand on Rei's shoulder and said, Ray-chan, you should NT.
Ray shrugged Takashi's hand off of her and said, Number. Hokage-sama needs to hear this. He should have done something much sooner. But, Takashi weakly tried to protest. Hiruzen sighed and shook his head. No, she's right. I was too afraid of the council's disapproval and their supposed power over me to do anything. Naruto-kun, cherish your friendship with these people. Come, I'll guide you to your new home. You all are welcome to come as well, if you'd like, he said before leading them out of Toicha's house and towards the clan district where his new home waited for him. As they walked along, Miku slipped up beside Naruto and leaned in close. Want me to help you break in the new bed properly? She teased.
Naruto blushed badly at that and said, maybe later. We need to get to know each other better first, Miku-chan. Ah, that's no fun. Don't you like me, Naruto-kun? She asked in a seductive tone. All Naruto could do was blush worse as they walked along, Miku teasing him the entire way. When they finally arrived at what would be his new home, their eyes widened at the sight of it. It looked amazing and it looked as if it could house a lot of people. If they had to put it into words, it was like a freaking mansion.
Doing as Hiruzen instructed him to, Naruto smeared some blood on the gate before proceeding through it and up to the door, which Naruto unlocked with a key that the Hokage gave him. Stepping inside, he couldn't help but grin. Oh yeah, I am going to like living here.
Why don't you have a look around, Naruto-kun? We can wait here for you, Hiruzen suggested before he walked over to a nearby chair and sat down. Naruto nodded and smiled at his friends before he went off to explore his new home. As he left, a few of the girls came to a decision. Once they were all genin, they were definitely moving in here, all for their Naruto-kun. When the blonde found the master bedroom, he walked in and sat down on the bed, loving how soft it was already. Kicking off his sandals, he laid back on the bed and closed his eyes, simply relishing in the feeling he got from doing so. The bed was leagues better than the one he had at that lousy apartment. In fact, as he lay there, he found himself slowly drifting off. At least, he was until. Feeling someone straddling him, he opened his eyes to see Miku in his face. Blushing at how close she was, he went to speak, only to feel her lips on his again. Slowly, he began kissing her back while she rubbed his crotch through his pants. When they parted, Miku said, "We're alone in here, Naruto-kun. If you desire, we can take this even further and I can show you a real good time. But if you aren't ready, then there's no need to rush things. I'll be patient with you. You're well worth the wait, after all." Naruto frowned in thought for a moment before shaking his head. As much as I'd like to, and trust me, I'd really like to, we can't keep the Hokage and the others waiting for too long. I have a feeling we'd be at it for hours, and I am not sure if there's silencing seals on the walls or not. Everyone would hear us. Lime begins. Don't read. The orange-haired girl pouted cutely, but nodded her head in understanding. All good points. Fine then, I know what we can do, she said with a grin on her face. Slowly, she climbed off of him and proceeded to free his cock from the confines of his pants, massaging it gently. She soon licked the tip, getting a taste for it. Liking it, she took it into her mouth and began to suck on it and lick it from the base to the tip. Hearing Naruto moan and whisper her name spurred Miku on more and she could feel herself getting wetter. Reaching down under her skirt, she pushed her panties aside and began thrusting a few of her fingers in her hungry snatch. Naruto began running his fingers through her hair and said, "Damn Miku-chan. That feels so good, I am already about to come." The orange-haired girl simply looked up at him, making a show of swallowing his cock and sliding back and forth on its length. The entire time, she was moaning in delight as she fingered herself and sucked him off. When he finally came, shooting his load down her throat, she picked up the pace with her fingers until she moaned out Naruto's name as she squirted all over the floor. Slipping her panties back into place, she watched as Naruto put away his cock again and grinned at him. "I am looking forward to next time we get to be alone together like this, Naruto-kun. I want you bad."
Lime ends, safe to read again. Naruto was blushing as the two of them stood up. Before Naruto could say anything, however, Miku grabbed his hand and placed it on her left breast. "Feel this. These are yours, sweetheart. I am going to really make you want me," she said with a wink before she turned and sauntered off, leaving him standing there absolutely stunned. Well, I can't say my life is boring. Returning to the living room where the others were waiting for him, Naruto looked into the Hokage's eyes and asked, "So what else did you need to talk to me about?"
Hiruzen looked between Naruto and Miku knowingly, a small, almost unnoticeable smirk playing at his lips. It was obvious he knew something special had transpired between the two of them. Shaking his head of such thoughts, he produced a scroll and tossed it to Naruto. "I wanted to warn you about something, and I wanted to give you that. That scroll contains information on a special clone jutsu called the Shadow Clone Technique. Because of your inability to perform the clone technique without flooding your surroundings with a ridiculous number of clones, I decided to finally do something about it." Seeing Naruto nod in thanks, the Hokage smiled before continuing on. "As for my warning, the councils will try to ensure you're put on a team with Sasuke Uchiha with Jonin Kakashi Hatake as your sensei. They want you controlled like an animal, and they both possess the ability to use the Sharingan to do so. Kakashi was your father's student, but he's become arrogant and somewhat lazy. He always shows up 3 hours late to everything, even a meeting with me, and because of his desire to honor his fallen teammate's memory, there's a good chance he'll favor Sasuke and train him almost exclusively. You'd think that, as you are the son of Minato, he would want to focus his time on you as well, but I highly doubt he would." Sighing, Hiruzen began stroking his beard as he continued to speak. "In other words, Kakashi absolutely cannot be trusted, so instead, I am going to put you on a team I think you'll get along with rather well. Before you ask, I am not going to tell you. I'll let it be a surprise." Smirking at the blonde, he soon continued on. "Now, I wanted to ask you something, Naruto-kun. I know you told me before about how he treats you, but I am curious about something. Has he changed at all? Or is he still the same bigot you warned me about before? Naruto scoffed and said, he hasn't improved at all. Iruka's an asshole, to put it lightly. The Hokage sighed again, but nodded in understanding. Very well then, it seems I'll have to have him replaced. Though, now that I think on it, I have another warning for you. Looking directly into Naruto's eyes, he said, beware of my student. Jiraiya of the Sannin, he is your godfather and he has been negligent in his duties to you. He would much rather peep on women in the hot springs and in their most private of moments for research purposes. He writes those smut books you've seen various men reading throughout the village. While I'll admit that I've read a few on occasion, the point stands that he invades women's privacy to gain inspiration for his books. On top of that, he's absolutely obsessed with a prophecy the Toad spoke to him about. If he shows up in your life and offers to teach you, my suggestion is to avoid him. I highly doubt he'll give you proper instruction, and no matter what he preaches and says, do not sign the Toad contract. He will use it to keep tabs on you and even reverse summon you should he feel like it. It's best for you to try and avoid him as much as possible. Naruto and the others scowled at this before the blonde nodded in understanding. Thanks for the warning, Gramps. Anything else I should know? Hiruzen smirked and said, just a tip, if you allow your little girlfriends to move in, make use of the privacy seals throughout the house, and as a safety precaution, because I don't trust Jiraiya to leave you alone, make sure all the doors and windows are locked and you activate the protective seals throughout the compound at all times. He will try to break in here, and as our village's only true seals master, he'll try to make use of his talents to gain access to you here. Naruto and the girls blushed at the insinuation. Upon noticing the blush on Ri's face, Takashi frowned and shot a brief scowl at Naruto, which didn't go unnoticed by the blonde or the Hokage, the easily jealous type. It would seem, he's still clinging onto that promise made when they were children, no doubt, Hiruzen thought with a frown. After everyone had calmed down, Hiruzen rose to his feet and smiled at Naruto. All right everyone, let's leave Naruto-kun alone to get some rest. Expect to meet your new teachers tomorrow, and do be sure to arrive on time, Naruto-kun, he teased before he and the others left the mansion, or at least, most of them did. Turning to look at the person that had stayed, Naruto was a bit surprised to see Ray looking at him worriedly. Are you really okay, Naruto-kun? Naruto frowned and shook his head. I honestly don't know how to feel right now, frustrated, confused, upset, it's all one big, jumbled mess right now. I can only imagine, the orange-haired girl said sadly. Do you want me to stay and keep you company for a while? I don't mind. The blonde shook his head and offered his friend a smile. It's okay. I think I just need some rest right now. I'll figure everything out tomorrow, hopefully. Today's been stressful and I am feeling absolutely exhausted. Ray simply nodded before moving up to Naruto until they were only inches apart. Looking into his eyes, she cupped his cheek in her hand and began to gently run her thumb over his whisker marks. Seeing him blushing, she giggled a bit before leaning in and capturing his lips with her own. When he began to kiss her back, she felt pure elation. When they parted, Naruto frowned slightly as he looked into her eyes. Ray-chan. What about Takashi? You did make a promise to him, and I'd feel terrible about taking you away from him. It wouldn't be right. The red-eyed girl could only giggle before kissing him again. When they parted a second time, she poked him in the nose and said, that was my first kiss, you know? As for Takashi, I am not sure how I feel about him. I care about you both. I don't know who I like more or who I should be with or anything, but I want you to know I care, even. Looking into his eyes somewhat uncertainly, she said, even if we don't get together, I will never regret giving you my first kiss. You're important to me, Naruto-kun. I know I made a promise to be his bride someday, and I do care for him, but... Naruto sighed and simply hugged his friend close. It's okay, Ray-chan. I understand. Takashi can be a bit indecisive. He's got a lot of potential, but he squanders it because of his lack of confidence. But, look at it this way. He's not Sasuke. That's something, right? He joked good-naturedly. Ray giggled and nodded her head in agreement. You have a good point. I'll try to make things work with Takashi. But, I have feelings for you too, Naruto-kun. If things don't work out between Takashi and me, will you be there for me? Even if we don't get together, it would be nice to know I can always lean on you for support. Naruto smiled at her and gave her a kiss again. Of course Ray-chan. I'll always be here for you. You're important to me. Now you should probably get going. I think he's out there waiting for you, Naruto said before turning her around and giving her a light push towards the door. The guy's crazy about you, and he gets jealous easily. Best not to keep him waiting any longer. The red-eyed girl sighed and nodded. So true. Take care, Naruto-kun, she said. looking at him one more time before she left the mansion. Now alone in the house, Naruto sighed and ran his fingers through his hair. You'd better treat her right, Takashi. Otherwise, I might just take her for myself, he said with a chuckle before he sealed his door again and walked off to the master bedroom to get some much-needed sleep. The next day, Academy Naruto sat in his usual spot in the top corner of the room, furthest away from the door. Miku had decided to sit next to him this morning and was currently running her hand along his inner thigh just to get a reaction out of him. Hinata saw this and simply sighed, not sure what her friend was thinking, though she also secretly wished she was the one sitting beside him so she could play with his impressive tool. After a little while, the new teachers entered the room. One was a woman with tanned skin with purple hair done up in a ponytail with bangs framing her face on both sides. The other woman was equally as attractive as the first with brownish-orange hair and violet eyes. Naruto easily recognized her as Ri's mother, Kiriko Miyamoto. The first woman glanced around the room at everyone while Kiriko took a seat beside her. All right class, the name's Rika Minami, I am a specialist in the art of ranged combat. My friend here specializes in using a spear. We're going to teach you a number of things, such as how best to fight them and how to go about combat when facing enemy shinobi. Chances are, when you're battling a shinobi, you're going to make noise and attract them to your location, so we need to make you the badasses you're meant to be so you stand a fighting chance out there. If you want to survive in this world, you need to be able to end fights quickly and efficiently before getting the hell out of that location before they can reach you. Any questions? Rei nodded her head and asked, what is my mom doing here? Wouldn't our instructors usually be Chunin? You're both Jonin. Kiriko giggled a bit at this before saying, we specialize in combating them and fighting enemy shinobi quickly and quietly. Besides that, Hokage-sama wanted teachers who would teach the class properly, no favoritism, no neglect, well be fair to each and every student until you all graduate. What this means in particular is that we will not treat Naruto Uzumaki as if he were the demon, and a certain Uchiha will no longer receive special treatment. From now on, you all work as equals and earn your keep. If you fail to keep up, you're going to fail our class. Hear that, fangirls? Shape up. Stop dieting, and act like proper kunoichi, otherwise you're out of the class, understand? Sasuke scowled at this information, not at all liking the implications. However, after a moment, he smirked arrogantly and said, it doesn't matter, I'll still be top of the class. As an elite, it's only natural. Sasuke's remaining fangirls swooned at this before a wave of killing intent washed over the room. Naturally, this caused the fangirls to struggle to remain upright, the contents of their stomach preparing to come rushing up and out of their mouths. They kept it down, but just barely. Sasuke, on the other hand, was hit with the full might of the killing intent and struggled to stay upright. When Kiriko upped her killing intent, his head met the desk before him and he began to sweat in fear. Listen here, runt. You're nothing special, you're arrogant, and that's going to get you killed out there. Just because you've been number one in the class so far doesn't mean shit. Besides, if the Uchiha clan were elites like you claim, then they wouldn't have been wiped out so easily by a single man. Now, shut up and pay attention. Class is about to begin, Rika said, a sinister smirk on her face. When Kiriko let up on the killing intent, Sasuke slowly sat upright again and glared down at them. He was not at all pleased about what had just transpired, nor was he pleased with how they seemingly mocked the Uchiha clan. You'll both pay for this, mark my words, he thought angrily. As the lesson began, Miku decided to take her stimulation a bit further by reaching into Naruto's pants and freeing his little monster, gripping it firmly, yet gently in her hand. She began to pump her hand up and down on it, enjoying the fact that Naruto was biting his lip to keep from moaning out loud. She wanted to lean in close and whisper something to him, but these new teachers seemed like real hardasses, so she didn't want to risk being caught by them. Rika eyed the two of them knowingly while Kiriko was giving the lecture. Naruto can't even concentrate on the lecture right now. I am going to have to separate them from now on so Yuki can't do this again. Still, seems like a fun time, she thought with a quiet chuckle. Kiriko had noticed as well, but she had continued on with her lecture for the day, deciding not to bother them right now. Let the hormonal teenagers have their fun for now. After a few moments, Naruto bit his lip hard enough to draw blood as he shot his load all over Mika's hand in the underside of the desk. Tucking his penis back inside of his pants, he shot a quick look at her, but all she did was grin at him before returning her attention to the front of the classroom. Sighing quietly, he thought, she's a seductress, feisty even, I like her. Rika clapped her hands once Kiriko was finished and said, all right kids, let's head out back. Time to see where you're all at in terms of taijutsu and shurikenjutsu. A number of the students seemed excited at the prospect of the practical exercises. However, the fangirls seemed somewhat reluctant to participate in such a thing, narrowing her eyes at them. she quickly decided that they'd have to do something to snap those girls from their fangirl mindset. Once out back, Rika looked at each of the students, trying to determine who best to pit each student against. Chancing a glance at Naruto, she went over what the Hokage had informed her earlier. Sloppy form, most likely due to sabotage by the previous instructors.
Barely any confidence when it comes to a true fight because of past experiences with sparring. Scared that when sparring against Sasuke that if he hurts the Uchiha in any way, everyone will take out their anger on him. The villagers would potentially hear about it and form another mob to punish the demon. Well, I think I know what to do about this. Smirking to herself, the purple-haired woman called Naruto and Sasuke up to the ring.
As Naruto went to walk by her, Rika grabbed him by the arm and leaned in close, whispering to him, "Don't hesitate, don't be afraid. Give it your all and show everyone what you can really do. The fangirls and the villagers won't do shit to you anymore if they know what's good for them. Besides, the Uchiha needs to be knocked down a few dozen pegs, understand me?" Naruto nodded somewhat hesitantly and said, "Got it. I'll do my best, Rika-sensei." Nodding, seemingly satisfied with his answer, Rika released him and watched as he stepped into the ring. Seeing both combatants ready, she shouted, "Begin." Naruto, surprising most of those present, simply stood still, waiting and studying his opponent. Ignoring the murmuring going on, he watched as Sasuke began to grow irritated with the lack of action. Getting an idea, he smirked sinisterly and asked, "What's the matter, Sasuke? Afraid to attack me? You're so used to me charging in first that I bet you never expected something like this."
Now that you have nobody to protect you, I think it's time you were knocked down a few pegs. You're nothing special, especially without your Sharingan. Face it, you're afraid to be hit. I bet everyone has always avoided hitting you because you're the council's little golden boy. Now that you are no longer protected, you're open game during hunting season. Face it, Sasuke, you're pathetic.
While Sasuke's fangirls began to shout angrily at this, Sasuke snarled and went on the attack. Trusting his instincts, Naruto slapped aside a punch and proceeded to slam his head against Sasuke's, stunning his opponent. Grabbing his head, Naruto slammed his face into his knee, breaking the Uchiha's nose in the process. Afterwards, he threw a sloppy punch that nailed Sasuke in the side of the head hard. Finally, the blonde jumped and kicked Sasuke hard in the chest with both feet before catching himself on his hands and righting himself once more. As Sasuke fell backwards, clutching his face in pain as blood trickled between his fingers, he could feel tears welling up in his eyes from the amount of pain he was in. Looking at his opponent, he saw that Naruto was perfectly alright. "Damn you, Dobi. Fine then, if that's how you want to play it, I'll teach you a lesson you'll never forget." Naruto watched as Sasuke rose to his feet with a sinister look on his face. Something about the whole situation didn't seem right to him. Rather than go on the attack, he decided to remain cautious and approach Sasuke slowly. This proved to be a mistake, however, as Sasuke flipped through hand seals and unleashed a great fireball that consumed Naruto. Screaming in agony, Naruto dropped to the ground and began to roll around, trying to put the fire out as they had been taught. The girls that cared about Naruto began to cry and scream at Sasuke in rage for what he had just done. Those that didn't care about or hated Naruto simply shrugged their shoulders uncaringly. Rika and Kiriko, however, were furious. While Kiriko went to aid Naruto, Rika walked up to Sasuke, who was smirking arrogantly, and proceeded to beat the shit out of him to teach him a very valuable lesson. Don't piss her off. How dare you? You just tried to murder a fellow citizen of the village, and the son of the fourth Hokage at that. You won't get away with this action, Sasuke Uchiha. Kiriko, I am trusting you to get Naruto the help he needs. I am dragging this asshole before the Hokage to ensure he's punished appropriately. As for all of you, stay right here and wait for us to return. And if I hear about any of you condoning what Sasuke just did, you'll wish you had kept your mouths shut. Is that understood? Rika exclaimed as she gripped Sasuke roughly by the hair and vanished with him to drag him before the Hokage. Kiriko frowned at the severe burns all over Naruto's body. Lifting him into her arms, she soon vanished with him to hopefully get him some much-needed help at the hospital. If nothing else, she knew Shizuka was incredibly fond of the blonde teenager, possibly even to the point of love. Shaking that thought off, she dearly hoped that Naruto could be helped somehow. After they had left, Amy smirked and said, "Serves that freak right. I don't care if he is the son of the fourth, he's still a monster." Sadly for her, very few people actually agreed with her. It would seem that the remaining fangirls had been split yet again. Masuzu Ichijo was frowning deeply after witnessing what had just happened. Her precious Sasuke-kun had just tried to murder Naruto Uzumaki. All because he was losing a spar. Who the hell does something like that? Turning to look at Tashimi, Masuzu saw her scowling and clenching her fists tight. Sighing, the black-haired girl hung her head for a time as she thought seriously about her crush and why she felt the way she did. After a time, she realized that she didn't really know, so, looking into Amos' eyes, Misuzu said, "What he did was wrong." The purple-haired girl scowled at Misuzu and asked, "What the hell do you mean Sasuke-kun was in the wrong? He was trying to vanquish the demon. That loser was beating Sasuke-kun. Can't you see how wrong that was?" Misuzu scowled and rose to her feet, towering over Amy in the process. Glaring deep into her eyes, Misuzu shouted, "Yes, Sasuke was in the wrong. Naruto did nothing wrong. All he was doing was sparring with Sasuke, and that asshole tried to kill Naruto, simply because he was winning against him. Sasuke just tried to murder one of our classmates. Can't you see how wrong that was, Amy? I knew Sasuke had his flaws, but I never thought he'd resort to trying to kill someone simply because he was losing a simple spar. So fuck you and everyone who thinks like you do. I, for one, hope Naruto is okay. I also hope Hokage-sama punishes Sasuke to the extreme. I need to apologize to Naruto for everything I've ever said and done to him. I just hope he's okay." Amy scoffed and went to slap some sense into Misuzu, but Tashimi moved faster than Amy did and grabbed the offending wrist tightly, causing the purple-haired girl to wince in pain. "You won't touch my friend, you ugly bitch," Tashimi said before punching Amy hard in the face, knocking her to the ground. Misuzu could feel tears trickling down her cheeks as she hugged Tashimi tight. "I am so sorry to-chan, I was so stupid." Tashimi simply held her friend close and said, "It's okay. At least you see now what I was talking about. Sasuke is unstable and he never got the psychiatric help he needed. He was a walking time bomb that would have lashed out at anyone the moment they proved to be better than he is. I just wish." Clinging to her friend now, Tashimi tried to fight back the tears. "I wish this didn't have to come at Naruto's expense. He's been through enough as it is." The black-haired girl simply buried her face in Tashimi's neck and sobbed. It was all she could do at this point. Meanwhile, Saeko was angrily tapping her sheathed sword against her shoulder. Her fingers gripping it tightly, she wanted so badly to strike Amy down for daring to support the Uchiha's actions. However, she was trying to restrain herself so she wouldn't end up killing somebody again, like she had done in the past to various Naruto abusers. Oh sure, nobody ever knew it was her that did it, and she wasn't about to tell a soul about it, but that didn't mean she wanted to fly off the deep end again. This all changed when Kiba spoke up though. "I don't see what the problem is. Yeah, I may not like Sasuke, but Naruto. Fuck that guy. He's a loser and should know his place. As far as I am concerned, Sasuke just did the world a favor by trying to remove that stain on society," Kiba said, sounding quite arrogant as he spoke. This proved to be his mistake, however, as Saeko slowly approached him. Drawing her sword from its sheath, Kiba never even saw the attack coming. In an instant, his left arm fell to the ground, another and his package was severed from his body. Finally, Saeko thrust her sword through his chest, narrowly missing his heart, letting it stay there for the time being. The purple-haired sword mistress leaned in and whispered, "You should have stayed quiet, pup." Removing her sword, she kicked him in the face to knock him out. Once Kiba had been dealt with, Saeko turned her attention on Amy. With sword in hand, she slowly approached the obnoxious fangirl, a sadistic grin spreading across her face. "Oh Amy, 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 you were warned. Now, I'll simply have to deal with you," Saeko said before dashing forward, catching Amy off guard, and removed the purple-haired bitch's head from her shoulders, as she became soaked with Amos' blood that began spraying up into the air. Saeko closed her eyes and relished in the feeling of taking the bitch's life. Turning around after Amos' body collapsed to the ground, Saeko watched as the bitch's head rolled along the ground until it hit a random fangirl's foot. Smiling sweetly at everyone, she asked, "Anyone else want to say anything smart?" The students that disliked Naruto wisely shook their heads negatively. "No, ma'am." They shouted as one. They watched as Saeko walked over and sat between her friends once again. They were absolutely terrified of Saeko now and nobody wanted to go against her. Takashi, who was feeling rather uneasy with what Saeko had just done, asked, Was that really necessary?" "I get it, I do, but you took it to the extreme. How do you expect to get away with this?" Rei frowned at Takashi, but didn't say anything. She still cared about him, she did, but at the same time, she was upset with him for defending the assholes, or at least, that's how she took it. Saeko, on the other hand, simply smiled kindly at Takashi and said, "I don't expect to get away with it, but if anyone asks, I'll explain that I was provoked until I finally couldn't take it anymore. It's the truth, and it will have to suffice. Besides, I doubt anyone here would argue the point. They're smart people, most of them, anyways." Takashi frowned at this and shook his head. "That still doesn't excuse what you just did." Saeko, you could get in very serious trouble for this. Before Saeko could reply, Rei glared at Takashi and said, after what Sasuke did, we were all pissed off and upset. Enrika Sensei warned them not to praise Sasuke's actions or they'd pay the price for it. I don't know about you, but I plan to defend Saeko. They provoked the attack. I think most here would agree. The black-haired boy frowned at the girl he loved as he tried to process what she had just said. After taking a moment to think on it, he shook his head and said, I am sorry Rei-chan, but I'll tell the truth to whomever asks. What Saeko just did was wrong. Rei scowled and was seriously tempted to slap her childhood friend. However, she held herself back and took a deep breath to try and calm herself down. I'll tell the truth too. Rika-sensei warned them that they would be punished. Saeko, sighing, she closed her eyes and tried to rein in her temper. Saeko punished them in her own way. Was it extreme? Yes, but the attack was a provoked one. We were already pissed off at what Sasuke did and extremely worried about Naruto-kun. Their words pushed us over the edge. If Saeko didn't do it, I probably would have. You can't mean that. Takashi asked her, finding it too hard to understand. Seeing the look in her eyes, the black-haired boy clenched his fists tight and looked down at his lap. You like him, don't you? What the hell does that have to do with anything? Can't a girl be worried about her friend without it having to be labeled a crush? What Sasuke did was terrible and I hope he pays dearly for it. Besides, Rei paused here and looked away, finding it increasingly hard to look Takashi in the eyes. I made you that promise, remember? I still care about you Takashi-kun. Why would I throw that away? Takashi frowned deeply at her and said, that would sound a lot more convincing if you could actually look me in the eyes while saying it. Giving her childhood friend such a fierce glare that it froze him in place, the orange-haired girl shouted out, yes. Okay. I like Naruto-kun as more than a friend. But I like you too, damn it. People can have more than one crush in their lives. Stop acting like such an asshole Takashi. Damn it. The black-haired teen recoiled as if he had been struck by her, Rei-chan. I don't want to hear it Takashi. I love you, I really do, but you make things so hard sometimes. I don't know what to do with you sometimes and it hurts me, like right now. You're just pissing me off and I want to hit you. Just leave me alone, please, Rei said as she walked off to sit beside Miku, hoping to just get away from Takashi for a while. You okay? Miku asked her fellow Orangette. Rei looked at Miku and shook her head. No, I am pissed the hell off. I want that Uchiha dead. Miku nodded in agreement with that sentiment. Same, nobody hurts my Naru-kun and gets away with it, wouldn't you agree, Hinata-chan? She asked, looking to her right at a crying Hinata. Hearing the question, Hinata looked at Miku and nodded, her fists clenching tight in her lap. Yes, if the Hokage doesn't do something about the Uchiha, I am going to kill him myself. First I'll rip off what makes him a man. It's probably super tiny though.
Miku and Rei giggled a bit, but nodded in agreement. Looking over at Saeko, Miku couldn't help but say, kinda wish I had beaten Saeko-chan to the punch. Those two were just asking to be cut down.
Rei and Hinata nodded in agreement, but neither said anything. For a while, the class just remained silent, waiting for the new instructors to return. They hoped they'd return soon, because they didn't know how long Kiba would last. Hokage's office. When Rika arrived in the Hokage's office with Sasuke, Hiruzen frowned as he looked up from his paperwork. Already he had a bad feeling and it only worsened as he saw the serious look in the woman's eyes. What happened? Sasuke simply smirked arrogantly. Despite the wounds he had suffered and the blood on his face, the loser got what he deserved, he said simply. Rika snarled as she punched Sasuke in the back of the head hard, sending him collapsing to the floor, pressing her foot against his back. She pinned him to the floor before turning her attention to the Hokage. Hokage-sama, I had Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha participate in the first spar so I could gauge their skill levels properly. I told Naruto to try his best and not to worry about the fangirls or the villagers, as they thought. Naruto had the upper hand and things seemed to be going well for him. Then, Sasuke used a fireball technique and set Naruto ablaze. Naruto has been rushed to the hospital in severe condition. I brought the Uchiha straight here so you can decide his punishment. He attempted to murder a fellow citizen of Konoha simply for beating him in a spar. At this point, Sasuke was hit with such an intense blast of killing intent that he saw about 100 different ways he could die. If he could move, he'd have likely tried to end his own life. It was that damn bad. I see, Hiruzen said in an eerily calm voice, standing up. The old man walked around his desk until he was standing over Sasuke, motioning for Rika to step back. He waited until she was clear of Sasuke before he kicked Sasuke in the head, sending him flying into the wall. I am tired of your arrogance, boy. You should have undergone therapy after what your brother put you through, but the councils, in their infinite wisdom, decreed that you were fine the way you were. I was too foolish to press the issue. Instead, I allowed your arrogance to grow and fester. I allowed you to become as egotistical and full of yourself as the rest of your foolish clansmen were. Do you know why your clan was wiped out? They were planning a coup against the village, all because your father wanted to be the 5th Hokage. He was an arrogant fool that thought far too much of himself. So I let Itachi kill them and didn't even try to stop him. You were spared on your brother's whim. He had high hopes for you, Sasuke Uchiha. Itachi wanted you to be a noble person, one that people would look up to. If you hadn't inherited your clan's bad attitude, maybe you could have made something of yourself. But no, you had to be just like them. Now you've proven to be even worse than I expected. I think I've got just the punishment for you. Walking over to the Uchiha as he struggled to stand, Hiruzen gripped him by the hair and lifted him up to eye level. Looking him in the eyes, the Hokage smirked and plucked out his eyes before crushing them in the palms of his hands.
You won't be awakening your Sharingan, Sasuke Uchiha. Producing a kunai, he looked at Rika and said, remove his pants. When Rika did as commanded, Hiruzen proceeded to cut off Sasuke's testicles. No more chance at breeding more Uchiha like you, Sasuke. Dropping Sasuke to the floor, Hiruzen grinned wickedly down at him before looking at Rika. Get the councils together, I want them to see this next part. Rika left to do as commanded, not wanting to question her leader, especially not when he was this pissed off. Once she was gone, Hiruzen dragged Sasuke all the way to the council meeting room and threw the blind Sasuke into the center of the room before taking his seat. Sasuke just curled up and sobbed uncontrollably the entire time they waited for the councils and Rika to arrive. When Rika arrived some time later with the councils and the elders, Hiruzen stood up and smiled at the esteemed council members. Welcome everyone. As you can no doubt see, I've had the distinct pleasure of beginning Sasuke Uchiha's punishment. I wanted you all to be here for the final stages of his punishment. Now, before we begin, I am sure you're all quite curious about what his crime was, are you not? Seeing everyone nodding, Hiruzen grinned and began to explain. Sasuke attempted to murder a classmate simply because he lost a spar.
Homura scowled at this and said, that is a very serious accusation. Who defeated Sasuke exactly?
Rika spoke up at this point, getting everyone's attention. It's no mere accusation, Homura-san. Sasuke Uchiha is unstable and a definite flight risk. When he lost in his spar with Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke attempted to murder him. As you all know by now, Naruto is the son of Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki. This makes Naruto a clan heir. On top of that, he is this village's Jinchuriki. That makes this a very serious crime.
But, why would you harm Sasuke-sama like this? One of the civilians asked stupidly. Hiruzen scowled at the man and said, because Sasuke needed to be punished for his crime, and his punishment is far from finished, and since I am tired of you assholes thinking you can protect him, I've decided to conclude his punishment in front of you. From now on, you idiots will realize that you are only here to advise me. If you try to go against my orders or overrule me again, I'll have you each executed in front of your families. Do you understand me? I am tired of tolerating your shit. But, you can't do something like that. You need us. We're too important for you to. The same civilian tried to say, only for a kunai to become embedded in his throat, silencing him forever. When the monk's body collapsed to the ground, Hiruzen smiled pleasantly at everyone and asked, anyone else want to say anything smart?
Seeing everyone shaking their heads, he nodded before he approached Sasuke. Now, just so everyone here knows, I am having everything that Sasuke owns transferred to Naruto Uzumaki. Sasuke's home, his clan district, his money, his belongings, his clan's jutsu scrolls, absolutely fucking everything that the Uchiha owns is now Naruto's. Hell, if Sasuke's mother was still alive, I'd say Naruto could fuck her brains out. If Sasuke had a girlfriend, I'd say Naruto could fuck her brains out. If Sasuke had actually awakened the Sharingan, I'd have given those to Naruto as well. Alas, Sasuke was too pathetic.
With a shrug of his shoulders, Hiruzen released a sigh and shook his head. Oh well, he said, now, to finish the punishment, since Sasuke seems to enjoy fire so much, flipping through hand seals, Hiruzen soon unleashed a giant fireball, setting Sasuke ablaze and watching as he was incinerated until all that remained was ashes. Once he was deceased, Hiruzen put out the flames with an earth jutsu. Turning to look at the rest of the council, he asked, any questions? Homura asked, what do we tell the people? Hiruzen shrugged and said, the truth. Sasuke attempted to murder a classmate and was executed for it, and before any of you ask, no, I have no idea how Naruto is faring. I haven't been to the hospital yet and nobody has come to inform me of his condition. For a while, Hiruzen and the others discussed the events that had taken place before Hiruzen ended the meeting and allowed everyone to leave. Looking at Rika, he commanded her to return to the academy while he left to visit Naruto at the hospital. Please be okay. Hospital. When Kiriko arrived at the hospital, she immediately set out in search of Shizuka Marikawa. She knew how dear Naruto was to the busty doctor and knew that if anyone could help him, Shizuka could. Upon finding her, Ri's mother called out her name, Shizuka. Naruto needs help. Turning, Shizuka was initially confused, but upon seeing Naruto, she immediately became serious. Inside that room, hurry. Following Kiriko into the room, she ordered the new academy instructor to get a few more doctors before she went to work examining Naruto's wounds. Frowning deeply, she noticed the Kyuubi's chakra begin healing Naruto. Deciding to aid in the healing process, she started using her healing jutsu to try and repair the damage. When the other doctors came in, she had them start repairing the damage they could as well. When it was all over, they looked Naruto over and breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed he would be okay after all. However, he would need to rest a bit for the time being. Looking at Kiriko, Shizuka frowned deeply and asked, "What happened?" Before Kiriko could respond, Hiruzen stepped into the room and said, "Sasuke Uchiha happened, Shizuka-chan. Naruto-kun won their spar, so Sasuke set Naruto-kun on fire. Please tell me you punished him." Shizuka questioned, a stern look on her face. "Sasuke will never harm anyone again. I executed him personally. I made sure he could never awaken his Sharingan. No more Uchiha can be bred from his seed. Everything he owned has been given to Naruto-kun, and his body has been cremated. In a sense, Sasuke is no more," Hiruzen explained. Before any more could be said, Rika rushed into the room with wide eyes. "Hokage-sama. Something big happened while we were away. Saeko-chan, she. The Hokage frowned deeply and asked, "What happened?" Rika shook her head and said, "You need to come see it for yourself. Sir, you too, Kiriko, and Shizuka. You need to come as well. Kiba needs immediate medical attention." Each of the mentioned people nodded before they vanished to go to the academy. Upon arriving at the academy, Hiruzen and the others looked around at the grisly scene. Blood was everywhere. Amos' head was at the feet of one of the fangirls. Kiba was pale with a large Akamaru whimpering at his side, and Saeko was covered in blood, most likely Amos. Seeing the serene smile on her face, Hiruzen facepalmed and dragged his hand down his face, letting out an agitated groan. After taking a moment to process the scene before him, the aged Hokage asked, "What exactly happened here?" Saeko looked calmly into the Hokage's eyes and said, "Rika-sensei told everyone that anyone that praised Sasuke's actions would be punished upon her return. Amy spoke ill about Naruto-kun and praised Sasuke's actions quite excessively." Kiba then proceeded to say, and I quote, "I don't see what the problem is. Yeah, I may not like Sasuke, but Naruto. Fuck that guy. He's a loser and should know his place. As far as I am concerned, Sasuke just did the world a favor by trying to remove that stain on society. At that point, I just couldn't take it anymore. I felt something inside of me snap, and after that all I could see was red. I do not regret my actions. I do not feel remorse. If I am to be punished for this, then so be it." Hiruzen frowned deeply at this and shook his head. No, I don't think I will. I'd say you were provoked by such statements. You care deeply for Naruto-kun, and you took such statements as a personal attack against your very being. Well, explain your case to the councils and see what they have to say, but as far as I am concerned, you didn't do anything wrong. I had hoped Sasuke would have been the only one needing to be punished today, but it seems I was wrong. Shizuka-chan. How is Kiba's condition?" Takashi looked horrified by what the Hokage was saying. Before Shizuka could say anything, he asked, "Hokage-sama. What Saeko did, isn't it wrong? She killed one of our classmates." The Hokage sighed and shook his head sadly. "It's sad, and it's horrible, believe me, I know, but Saeko is incredibly skilled for one her age. We need someone like her out there on the front lines fighting them. We can't afford to bench her or punish her for punishing people for acting out of line like these two. Besides, if I were in her shoes, I would have done the exact same thing." Once more, the black-haired teen's eyes widened, but he remained silent, simply trying to process the Hokage's words. Shizuka took this time to speak up in response to the Hokage's question. "He's gone. Hokage-sama, he lost a lot of blood. I could have reattached his arm if we had arrived sooner, but..." Hiruzen frowned deeply at this and shook his head sadly. "Soom's not going to like this. Saeko-chan, I need you to come with me. Who here would like to speak on Saeko-chan's behalf before the council?" Rei and Hinata raised their hands, smiling at them. Hiruzen placed a hand on their shoulders before looking at Kiriko. "Kiriko, Please bring Saeko to the council meeting room. Rika. Send the class home for the day. They've been through enough for the day. I'll have a genin team clean up the field later. After Hiruzen and Kiriko vanished with the 3 students, Rika did as instructed, sending each of the students home. Afterwards, she looked at the deceased students and released a heavy sigh. Damn it, if I had just returned sooner, maybe I could have stopped all of this from happening. Shit. Council meeting room. The councils were confused at having been called back once again. However, when they got a good look at Saeko, they were stunned speechless. Looking to Hiruzen, they waited patiently for an answer. As soon as everyone was seated, the aged man massaged the bridge of his nose and began to speak. I am sorry for calling all of you back again so soon. Something has happened. Looking around at everyone, Hiruzen decided to get on with the explanation. Rika Minami told the students that they were not to praise Sasuke for his actions or else there would be hell to pay upon her return. As soon as she had left, a student by the name of Amy cheerfully praised Sasuke for punishing the demon. She felt Sasuke was in the right for what he did. Then, Kiba Inuzuka said, I don't see what the problem is. Yeah. I may not like Sasuke, but Naruto. Fuck that guy. He's a loser and should know his place. As far as I am concerned, Sasuke just did the world a favor by trying to remove that stain on society. Here, Hiruzen looked into Sume's eyes to gauge her reaction. Sume looked stunned that her son would say such a terrible thing. She had tried to beat such arrogance out of him and tried to teach him some damn respect. Obviously such lessons didn't stick. However, she got a horrible feeling in her gut and she could feel tears welling up in her eyes. Don't tell me, please. Hiruzen nodded his head and said sadly, Saeko Busujima took it as a personal attack against herself, as someone that cares very deeply for Naruto Uzumaki, so she took it upon herself to punish the both of them. Kiba Inuzuka and Amy are no longer among the living. Sume began to sob in anguish, both furious and upset that her son was killed in such a way. However, try as she might, she couldn't find it in her to be angry at Saeko. No, she was angry at herself for being unable to curb her son's arrogance, to make him a better person. The other council members weren't sure what to think. On the one hand, Saeko had murdered 2 of her fellow classmates in cold blood. On the other, one could argue that it was a provoked, and therefore justified attack, but... Looking down at Saeko, Danzo smirked to himself and said, I don't see any reason to punish the girl. We need soldiers like her out there fighting them. She is skilled and has proven so time and time again throughout her time in the academy. If we punish her now and deprive her of her chance to become a kunoichi of Konohagakure, we lose out on a key fighter in the coming years. The clan heads nodded in agreement. Though Sume took a while to do so, the civilians looked hesitant to do so, but eventually agreed. Homura and Kaharu frowned for a time. When all eyes turned on them, Kaharu decided to speak up. A stern frown on her face. Saeko Busujima, she said, getting the sword mistress' attention. Do not make this a habit. If you can promise me this, we shall pardon your actions. Saeko simply nodded, though inwardly she was smirking. I won't do it in public anymore, but that doesn't mean I won't kill in secret. Anyone that threatens Naruto-kun or hurts him in any way will face my blade. You cannot stop my wrath, O wise elder. Very well, Hokage-sama, we have no objections either, Kaharu stated, though she frowned while saying this. Hiruzen nodded and smiled down at Saeko. You are free to return home and take a shower. You might want to burn those clothes as well. Saeko-chan. It would seem you were not needed after all. Hanada-chan. Rei-chan. Sorry for dragging you along. Watching the 3 of them leave, the Hokage soon sighed and looked over at Sume with an apologetic frown. Will you be alright, Sume? Sume shook her head and said, I don't know what to do. Hokage-sama, I never thought something like this could happen. I figured he might get bitten by one of them while on a mission, being the idiot that he was, but this is just too much. I thought I taught him better than this. Kiba, he was such an idiot. Damn it, he took after my idiot husband too damn much. For what it's worth, I am truly sorry for your loss, Sume, Hiruzen said. After this, the council once more went their separate ways. The Hokage sincerely hoped that this wasn't an ill tiding of things to come. He still had to figure out the teams and determine the Jonin senseis and so on. I am getting way too old for shit like this.
Naruto groaned as he slowly came to. He remembered exactly what happened and it pissed him off. That fucking asshole. Start to win one spar and he goes insane. Well, he was already a bit deranged, but I didn't think even he would go that far. Opening his eyes, he looked around and let out a groan. Yep, figured I'd be here again. Shizuka-chan probably wasn't too happy. I wonder what happened after that.
Good, you're awake, somebody said as she stepped out of the darkness of the room. It was late at night and the lights in the room were off. The only real light in the room was from the various machines and from the moonlight illuminating parts of the room.
Looking at who it was, he was a little surprised to see Saeko standing there looking at him with a kind smile on her face. Frowning slightly in confusion, he asked, Saeko-chan. What are you doing here? It looks like it's pretty late, shouldn't you be at home sleeping? The purple-haired swordswoman giggled a bit and took a seat beside his bed. I wanted to see you. I knew you would be okay. But I was still concerned. We all are, actually. Besides, I figured you would want to know what happened after Sasuke attempted to kill you. Are you really sure you want me to go home and sleep? Naruto chuckled for a moment before saying, Not really. I appreciate the company. Actually, looking into her eyes, he asked, So what happened after Sasuke roasted me alive? Saeko looked calmly into his eyes and said, The reason I am here, Naruto-kun, is because I wanted you to hear the truth from me. Rika-sensei told everyone that they were not to praise Sasuke for what he did, or there would be consequences. You were rushed to the hospital and Sasuke was taken before the Hokage. There will be an announcement about Sasuke tomorrow, but from what I've been able to gather, he has been killed. I do not know the full details of his punishment, however.
After both senseis left, Amy praised Sasuke and tried to get everyone to celebrate with her.
The remainder of Sasuke's fangirls split in two once again, and Misuzu wishes to apologize to you for what she's said and done to you in the past. I was frustrated. You know you are dear to me, Naruto-kun. I was barely in control of myself when Amy and her fellow fangirls began to celebrate. Then, Kiba spoke up. Here are his exact words. I don't see what the problem is. Yeah, I may not like Sasuke, but Naruto.
Fuck that guy. He's a loser and should know his place. As far as I am concerned, Sasuke just did the world a favor by trying to remove that stain on society. Sighing heavily, she closed her eyes and said, Naruto-kun. At that point I snapped. I killed both Kiba Inuzuka and Amy. The council has decided not to punish me. When I was fully ready to accept any punishment given, I believe that the only reason they chose not to punish me is because they want me as a soldier out there on the front lines, working to keep them at bay. The more of them I kill, the better. They would not care if I were to die on a mission. Naruto frowned for a time before he said, I see. I don't know what to say to all that. I do have a question for you, Saeko-chan. Were you the one who killed those people that attacked me before? When we were younger, I mean.
Saeko nodded and said, I am. The Hokage was willing to let them off with a slap on the wrist at the time. He would claim his hands were tied, but at the time he simply lacked a spine. Thankfully that seems to have changed. But the fact remains that I killed those that did you harm. And this time I killed because of an intense hatred and anger towards those two for being happy about you nearly dying. If that offends you, then I apologize. The blonde stared at the ceiling for a long while before he asked her, Just answer me this, Saeko-chan. Was it necessary to kill the two of them? Did you enjoy it? The purple-haired woman sighed and said, Was it necessary? Perhaps not. I do not know what kind of punishment Rika-sensei would have given them. I have no way of knowing what would have happened were they to live, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, Naruto-kun. I enjoyed killing them, just as I enjoyed killing those that did you harm in the past. I've stayed my hand with Sasuke's fangirls for the longest time, considering all they and Sasuke himself have put you through. I just couldn't take it anymore. I do not regret my actions. If you hate me now, then please let me know. The blue-eyed teen looked into Saiko's eyes and said, I could never hate you, Saeko-chan, especially not for what you did in the past to those assholes. As for Amy and Kiba, I don't know, Saeko-chan, I am more worried for you than anything. I don't care about those two, not even a little bit. I am just worried about your mental state and how easy it is for you to kill. What worries me more is the fact that you enjoy killing as much as you apparently do. You should never enjoy taking another's life. It should never be that easy for you. I care about you, Saeko-chan. I don't want anything to happen to you because you kill the wrong person someday. So, can I ask you a favor? The blue-eyed swordswoman nodded and asked, What's the favor, Naruto-kun? Looking into her eyes seriously, Naruto said, I want you to promise me that you'll focus your bloodlust on them and any other enemy that crosses our path in the future. If you absolutely have to kill, if the need becomes too strong, unleash your fury on those who truly deserve it. You can't just keep killing people willy-nilly when they make you angry, okay? Saeko frowned for a time as she seriously considered the favor he was asking of her. After a time, she said, Very well, Naruto-kun. For you, I'll channel my rage on our enemies. It will take considerable effort on my part to keep from lashing out at those who wish you harm, but I will do my utmost best to ensure I do not upset you further. That's all I ask of you, Saeko-chan, Naruto said with a kind smile on his face. For a while after this, Naruto and Saeko continued to talk about a variety of things, just enjoying one another's company. However, when it started to grow truly late in the night, the purple-haired swordswoman sighed and bid him farewell before leaping out of the nearby window. Saeko-chan. The next day, Naruto had been released from the hospital early in the morning after Shizuka had checked in on him. Now he was standing amidst a rather large crowd with his friends and loved ones. Everyone had been summoned to this location and were awaiting a speech of some kind from the Hokage.
As they waited, Misuzu walked up to Naruto and bowed before him. Naruto, I am so sorry for how I've treated you. I know it's probably too much to ask, but, can you forgive me? The blonde looked at her for a while before releasing a sigh. Misuzu, you treated me like shit just to please Sasuke. I never did anything to you to warrant such treatment besides existing. But, you are Tashimi's friend and she loves you as such. If you promise never to do it again, I'll forgive you. But if you ever try to hurt me again, that'll be it. No more forgiveness. Do you understand me? The black-haired girl nodded and smiled happily at Naruto. Hugging him tight, she said, thank you. I promise, I'll never hurt you again. Naruto, you have my word. Naruto blushed a bit at the close contact, but slowly returned her hug, patting her on the back a couple of times. Thanks. Realizing what she was doing, the black-haired teen released Naruto and stepped back beside Tashimi, blushing slightly. Sorry Naruto.
No problem, it was just a bit unexpected, that's all, Naruto said before turning towards the front again. Looks like Gramps is ready to speak. Might wanna quiet down and listen now. Everyone nodded, deciding they could talk with Naruto later when they had some more time.
Getting everyone's attention, the Hokage began to speak, using a jutsu of some kind to enhance his voice so he could be heard by everyone. Everyone, I am not going to drag this out or beat around the bush. A terrible crime has been committed and I think it's high time I started doing something about it. For too long, you all have gotten away with abusing a poor child. You think of him as the very beast that attacked this village so many years ago. By now, I am sure you know exactly who I am talking about. Hearing the murmuring amongst the villagers and more importantly the words demon boy and other such derogatory terms being used, the Hokage scowled and unleashed his killing intent on the villagers.
Bringing everyone to their knees, Naruto Uzumaki, he is no more the Kyuubi than any of you are. The only thing that makes him different is the fact that he holds the Kyuubi trapped inside of him. He is what is referred to as a Jinchuriki. There are 9 Jinchuriki in total. Each of these people hold one of the Biju within themselves, trapped and unable to break free. For instance, were Naruto Uzumaki to die, the Kyuubi would be unleashed once again to wreak havoc. Sighing heavily, he let up on his killing intent for the time being and produced a scroll and a kunai. This metaphor has been used far too often for my liking, but it's an effective one. In my hands, I hold a scroll and a kunai. They are separate, not one in the same. Sealing the kunai within the scroll, he held the scroll out for everyone to see. I have sealed the kunai within the scroll. Now tell me, does this make the scroll the kunai? Or are they still separate items? One villager shrugged and said, not really. From my understanding, the scroll simply contains the kunai. It can be sealed and unsealed at your leisure. Are you trying to tell us that the boy simply contains the Kyuubi? Fourth Sama didn't seal it into a human form for us to kill.
Hiruzen sighed heavily and shook his head in disbelief. Where the hell did you assholes get that idea? Narrowing his eyes, he came to a realization. Of course, those fools on the council, they'll be paying for this, of that I assure you. No, the Kyuubi was not sealed into a human form. The Kyuubi is simply sealed away inside of Naruto Uzumaki. And if you were to kill him, it would escape, but you idiots never even thought of such a possibility, did you? Of course you didn't. What makes your abuse towards him even worse is the fact that Naruto Uzumaki is the son of the 4th Hokage and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki. Minato wanted his son to be treated as a hero for keeping the Kyuubi at bay, and you idiots spat on his wishes. You attempted to murder the 4th's only child. Seeing the shocked expressions on most of the village populace, Hiruzen decided to continue. Instead, you praised and adored Sasuke Uchiha after the Uchiha massacre. You spoiled him rotten, made him think he was more important, more special than he actually was. Itachi spared his brother not because Sasuke was special, but because he couldn't bring himself to kill him. Itachi loved his family in this village greatly. I'll let you in on a little secret that has been kept from you. The Uchiha clan you praise so highly? They were planning a coup to usurp the position of Hokage from me so they could rule the village instead and make things in their image. Itachi did what he had to do to ensure the Uchiha clan failed. Chuckling darkly when they were stunned into silence, he decided to continue, not giving them any time to dispute the truth or ask questions. You spoiled the son of a traitor. You helped make him more arrogant, you fed his superiority complex, and you made him believe that he could get away with absolutely anything.
Now, why am I telling all of you this, you might wonder. In a spar held at the academy just yesterday, Naruto Uzumaki gained the upper hand and was actually beating Sasuke Uchiha. Unable to tolerate the fact that he was losing to the dead last, Sasuke set Naruto on fire with a fire jutsu in an attempt to murder him, all because he was having a difficult time in a simple spar of all things. Smirking evilly at the gathered crowd, he said, while Naruto was taken to the hospital. Sasuke was brought before me to determine his punishment. After learning what he did, I tore out his eyes and crushed them. I cut off what makes him a man to ensure he and his sperm could never be used to breed another Uchiha like him. I took everything, absolutely everything that belonged to Sasuke and have given it to Naruto Uzumaki. Then, I killed Sasuke in as fitting a way as I could think of. Your little golden boy is no more. Listening to all the chatter, the Hokage couldn't help but look at Naruto with a small smile on his face. No longer will I tolerate the abuse towards you, Naruto-kun. Hopefully this makes the villagers think twice before they try anything from now on. Getting everyone's attention once again, Hiruzen decided to say a few parting words. There will be no funeral for Sasuke Uchiha, nor will his name be added to the memorial stone. No, Sasuke did not earn it. In fact, he won't even be a footnote in our history. His final punishment will be to be forgotten in the sands of time. I am done now. Just know that I will not tolerate any more abuse towards Naruto Uzumaki in any form. Now be gone. And with that, the Hokage left to resume his paperwork, a smirk on his face. As the crowd began to disperse, muttering amongst themselves, Naruto stood there stunned at everything he had just heard. Everything, mine. Huh. Miku giggled conspiratorially to herself. I know what I want to do. Oh Naruto-kun, why don't we have sex in Sasuke's old room? Really stick it to him in the afterlife, huh? Naruto blushed badly and looked her in the eyes. What? Exclamation mark. No. Yuck. Just. No. I don't want to so much as touch his stuff, let alone have sex in his bed, though I suppose, now that I own everything he once had. Looking in the direction of the old Uchiha compound, he frowned for a time before finally speaking again. I can't help but wonder if there's anything there I could make use of, and I assume his money has been transferred to my bank account too. Combine that with the money my parents left me and, holy shit, I am rich. As Naruto's eyes widened from the realization, the others soon joined him, their eyes widening as well. If they still had their fangirl mindsets, Sakura and Ino realized that they would have started trying to suck up to Naruto in an effort to get at his bank accounts and be well off for life should they marry him. Coming to another realization, Sakura gently tugged on Naruto's sleeve to get his attention. Naruto, people are going to try and push for arranged marriages with you to get at your bank accounts. Don't fall for it. Stand strong against any seduction attempts, please. Naruto sighed and palmed his face. Oh goody, that sounds just lovely. How am I supposed to tell those who are genuine in their affections from those who would rather get at my money and everything else I have? He asked with a sigh following afterwards. Frowning at this, Hinata walked up to him, cupped his face in her hands, and kissed him lovingly on the lips. When they broke apart moments later, they were both blushing, smiling at him. The Hyuga heiress said, trust your heart and your instincts, Naruto-kun, they won't steer you wrong, and, some of us here genuinely love you already, it's up to you if you want to give us a chance, however. Smiling at Hinata, he hugged her close and said, thank you, Hinata-chan, I just hope you and whoever else feels that way about me can wait for me to figure out my own feelings towards you girls. As of right now, I just don't know how I feel. I am still trying to sort through everything that's happened lately. So much has happened and it's honestly getting kind of insane. Hinata smiled and kissed his cheek. Hugging him back, she said, take all the time you need. We'll help you however we can. Should you need us, for now, we should probably get you home. You look like you could use some rest. Naruto chuckled a bit and shook his head. I think I rested plenty last night, but you're right. I would like to just relax for a while. I'll start looking through my parents' things later and perhaps even browse through the Uchiha compound to see what I can find. I want to take anything useful before I give the compound to the Hokage to change somehow, maybe make it into a new housing district for the poorer folk of the village. I don't know. Tashimi smiled at him and said, that actually sounds rather nice. I am glad you're thinking about how to give the old Uchiha compound a new purpose. That's kind of you. The blonde simply shrugged and said, the only reason nobody did anything about the massive waste of space before is because Sasuke wouldn't let them. With nobody living there now, it's best to just take what I need and want from there and give it to the people. I wouldn't mind being the landlord for the new apartment complex I assume will be built there, though. Everyone chuckled a bit at that before Sakura and Hinata took his hands in theirs and began walking with him towards his home. Hinata he had somewhat expected, but Sakura was a bit of a shock. When he looked at her curiously, she simply shrugged and asked, "Can't a girl hold her friend's hand while they walk together? Unless you don't want to be friends with me." Naruto chuckled a bit before smiling at her. "That sounds nice, Sakura-chan, I'd love to be friends," he admitted. As they walked towards Naruto's home, Takashi walked behind the group, keeping a sharp eye on Naruto. Now that he's got all this money, what if Rei decides she likes him better than me? Would she really be that shallow? No, she wouldn't be, would she? Damn it. What the hell does she even like about him anyways? He wondered to himself, feeling awfully frustrated by the whole situation. He never thought he'd be caught in the middle of a love triangle like this, and he didn't like it one bit. 6 months later. Sure enough, just as Sakura had expected, a number of people had tried to arrange marriages between their daughters and Naruto, but each attempt was blocked by himself and the Hokage. Thankfully, though there were a few marriage candidates that caught his interest and actually stunned him a bit. First there was a proposal by Hiyashi Hyuga to marry his eldest daughter, Hinata Hyuga. When asked why he would give her away like that, the Hyuga clan head had simply smiled at Naruto and explained that he knew about her crush on him and also admitted that he wanted to protect his eldest child from the clan elders that wanted to brand her with the Hyuga clan's curse seal. By marrying into another clan and forming a kind of alliance with one another, she would essentially be untouchable by them, especially if they didn't want to suffer the repercussions of pissing off another clan head. After all, offending another clan in such a way would end very, very badly for them. So Naruto agreed to the arranged marriage, if only because he genuinely cared for her and wanted her to be happy. And he knew he liked her too, though he still needed time to determine just how much, but considering they had the rest of their lives to figure it out, he wasn't too worried about it and neither was she. The second marriage candidate that caught him off guard was Hana Inuzuka. Sume hadn't given much a reason, other than the fact that she'd like to see pups from them given time. Naruto had initially turned down her generous offer, but he admitted that he wouldn't mind getting to know Hana as a friend and seeing how things went from there. So far, he and Hana had simply spent time together, talking to each other and getting to know one another as friends. While he had to admit she was a very attractive woman, he just wasn't sure if he wanted to marry her. Sure, she was a great person and they got along really well, but he still didn't know what he wanted for sure.
The final marriage candidate that caught his interest was Sakura Haruno.
This was an obvious attempt by her parents to get at his newfound wealth and he had called them out on it. He had turned it down instantly, telling them that if they truly loved their daughter, they wouldn't try to force a marriage on her that she didn't want, nor was she ready for it. They were only using her as a pawn to get what they wanted. They didn't take kindly to this, but they couldn't do anything about it, lest they end up like Sasuke and the Civilian Council. Speaking of the Civilian Council, after Hiruzen's speech, he had each of them executed for their crimes. He had yet to replace them, as he didn't really feel a need for the civilians to have any say in shinobi affairs. Oh sure, he made sure to hire a representative to speak for the regular citizens of Konohagakure, but she was simply there to discuss civilian-related issues rather than trying to butt her nose into shinobi affairs.
As for Sakura, Naruto had admitted that he found her attractive and liked her well enough.
But he didn't want to just rush into some kind of forced marriage that neither of them wanted. They got along rather well and enjoyed spending time together. Oftentimes, things Naruto said or did made her giggle and she couldn't help but start to slowly fall for the guy. So after some time, they started dating, just as he and Hinata were. No marriage plans yet, but that could always change later on down the road. Despite Miku's wishes, she and Naruto had yet to do the deed. They had spent time together and, like with Hinata and Sakura, the two of them had started dating one another. Miku would often use her sex appeal to get a rise out of Naruto, just to torment him a bit. Naruto didn't mind it so much though, as he got back at her in his own creative ways. They were quite happy as it was, simply dating one another. Naruto was also pleased to see that Takashi and Rei had actually been going on a few dates every now and again. She was trying dearly to make a relationship with him work, and things seemed to be going well. However, there were still moments where Takashi would get jealous of how close Rei and Naruto were. These, of course, annoyed the orange-haired girl something fierce, but she attempted to take it in stride and deal with it in her own way. Classes had been going well and Naruto was quickly rising in the ranks, becoming one of the top students in the class. With the guidance of Rika and Kiriko, each of the students had improved tremendously, becoming truly capable future shinobi. The remaining Sasuke fangirls had all dropped out, while the others had started taking everything seriously, determined to become the best kunoichi they could become. Now, however, it was time for team placements. They had all graduated and things were going well. A now 18-year-old Naruto and his friends and loved ones were eager to see who they would be on a team with. Naruto was so giddy he was practically bouncing in his seat. Rika and Kiriko soon entered the classroom and took their positions at the front of the classroom. Looking around at everyone, they began to give a speech, stating how proud they were of each of them and how they looked forward to seeing and hearing about their future exploits. The usual graduation spiel, Naruto presumed. Once they were finished, Rika started looking through some papers and began listing off teams 1 through 6. When she got to Team 7, she frowned slightly at the name of the chosen sensei. Sighing, she said, Team 7 is Takashi Kimura, Rei Miyamoto, and Yakumo Kurama. Your sensei is Kakashi Hatake. I warn you now, he's going to be extremely late picking you up, so I suggest going out to eat something, take a stroll, do something to pass the time, then, come back here before 3 hours is up, understand? The named Yakumo, a beautiful young woman with brown hair and brown eyes, frowned slightly in confusion. If he's that bad, why was he named sensei of our team? We need someone punctual, someone that will take training as seriously, not someone that will waste our time like that. Rika sighed and shook her head. I don't know the answer to that, Yakumo. He used to be a highly respectable shinobi with a stellar performance record. However, he has become lazy and overly reliant on his implanted Sharingan. I'd say he's even become somewhat arrogant. If he doesn't take training you 3 seriously and something happens, take it up with the Hokage and see if you can't get yourselves a new sensei, alright? Seeing each of them nod, Rika looked at the list again and said, Team 8 is Miku Yuki, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame. Your sensei is Kurenai Yuhi. Miku, try to behave yourself. Kurenai's kind of a prude and she acts like Hinata's her daughter, so don't antagonize her, okay? Miku simply smirked devilishly and said, No promises Rika-sensei. I've got plenty I want to teach Hinata-chan too.
Rika sighed and facepalmed before she decided to just move on.
Team 9's still in circulation, so next up is Team 10. Looks like you're the next generation of the OL Ino Shika Cho combination. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akamichi. Your sensei is Asuma Sarutobi. Looking into Ino's eyes, she said, Ino, I expect you to keep all 3 of them in line. Asuma's kind of lazy himself, but not on the level of a Nara or Kakashi, and you know what your teammates are like, so do what you have to keep them all in line. Seeing Ino nod, Rika moved on once again. Team 11 is Sakura Haruno, Masuzu Aikiju, and Toshimi Nikki. Your sensei is Anko Mitarashi. Huh, that's a pretty solid team for a team of nothing but kunoichi. I am looking forward to hearing what all you 4 get up to out there.
Finally, Team 12 is Naruto Uzumaki, Saya Takagi, and Saeko Busujima. Your sensei is Yugo Izuki. Hokage-sama knew what he was doing putting all of you together. You should be just fine out there, she said, a smile on her face. Looking around at all of her students, Rika said, I expect to hear great things about all of you. We trained you well, now it's up to you and your senseis to take things to the next level. Don't get careless out there and risk your lives foolishly. Remember, they are everywhere. One wrong move and you'll end up a snack for those things. If your senseis neglect to tell you, then I will now. You should each go and pick out a weapon that suits you. I would recommend both a ranged weapon of some kind and a melee weapon as well. Saeko-chan already has her weapon, so she is set for the most part. However, the rest of you still need to purchase weapons you feel most comfortable with. Now, be careful and take care of yourselves. After Rika and Kiriko left the room, Naruto and the other students began to chat amongst themselves and gather into groups, most of them choosing to unite with their teammates and discuss future missions, their true genin tests, their senseis, and so on. Yes, they all knew about the true genin test. How could they not when Rika and Kiriko had informed them about it ahead of time? Soon enough, one of the windows shattered and a banner spread out in the front of the classroom. At first, the students were confused, but when 2 kunoichi appeared before them, both with purple hair, though in very different hairstyles, they immediately understood that these were the senseis for 2 of the teams. It didn't take a genius to figure out who was who, as the banner clearly stated their names and Anko even made sure to include the fact that she was sexy and single, which was interesting in its own unique way. Alright, we're Anko Mitarashi and Yugo Izuki. In case you kids can't read, teams 11 and 12, you're with us. Let's move out, Anko exclaimed before she leapt out the broken window. Sakura deadpanned at Yugo and said, she didn't even tell us where we're supposed to go. The purple-haired swords woman facepalmed and said, follow me, damn it Anko. Dango shop. As Yugo and the genin entered the Dango shop, they saw Anko chowing down on Dango with a happy expression on her face. Walking up to her, Yugo said, next time, have some patience and tell your team where you're supposed to meet. Anko blinked a couple of times and asked, I forgot to tell them, huh? Well damn, sorry kiddos. Dango was calling to me and I just couldn't ignore the call. Lovely, wonderful little treats, I love you too.
As their sensei cooed to her food, Team 11 sweat-dropped before taking seats around Anko. Meanwhile, Team 12 took seats with Yugao. They were close enough to one another that they could chat with each other. However, alright, here's how this is going to work. As new teams, we all have to go through the introduction process, the usual blah 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 kinda stuff. Yugao, why don't you show them how it's done so they get the idea? Anko suggested.
Yugo sighed, but nodded her head. Very well, I am Yugo Uzuki. Frowning, she took a moment to really think on her relationship with one Hayate Gecko. While she loved him dearly, she had her suspicions that something was just off. Frowning slightly, she shook her head and said, I love my boyfriend, Hayate Gecko. I like my friends, namely Anko, Kurenai, and Hana. I also like cookies, especially chocolate chip cookies. I dislike the fact that I can't help but feel like Hayate might be cheating on me. I also dislike those who look down on kunoichi, viewing us as weaker than men. My hobbies include gazing at the moon and practicing my kenjutsu style. Finally, my dream? It was to settle down and have a nice family with Hayate, but now I am not so sure. I guess, I want to find true love and have a happy family, even if it's not with Hayate. Everyone frowned sadly at this before Sakura decided to voice a question. If you're sure he's cheating on you, why haven't you done something about it yet? You could confront him or leave him, or do any number of things. Because she's afraid, aren't you, Yugo-sensei? Naruto questioned. Sounding genuinely sad for her, you're afraid to find out the truth because you really do love him. And you're worried that he really doesn't feel the same way. Especially if he's cheating on you with another woman. But, looking seriously into her eyes, he said, you need to find out the truth, whether you like it or not. You can't continue being in a relationship if there's no trust. You're suspicious of him right now, and your instincts are screaming at you that something's wrong. One thing I've learned is that you should trust your instincts, for they rarely steer you wrong. So you have a few choices here, Yugo-sensei. You can do one of two things. The first is where you confront him and find out the truth. If it turns out that he is cheating on you, then you can try and work things out with him, but I do recommend leaving him and finding happiness with someone else. As they say, once a cheater, always a cheater. There will always be that niggling doubt in the back of your mind saying he could and will do it again. That is no way to live. Always worrying about the possibility that something will happen again. Or you can choose option number 2. Trust your instincts and dump him. You're better off without him because you're a beautiful woman that deserves the absolute best. If Hayate cannot respect you and your feelings, then you should find someone who will. And trust me when I say that there are good men out there that would love to be with someone like you. Yugo-sensei, Naruto said, being completely serious the entire time and never once breaking eye contact with her. Yugo blushed a bit at what he said, finding herself unable to speak for a while. Anko, on the other hand, smirked for a moment before turning her gaze to Yugo. Yu-chan. The kid's got a point. I suggest you at least think on what he just said, and I think you should just go ahead and pass your team right now. The kid's got a good head on his shoulders and I think the kid's LL grow on you. The swordswoman giggled softly and said, I think you're right, Anko-chan, and Naruto-kun. Thank you, I mean it, I'll definitely do something about it. If it turns out that things are really as bad as I think they are, then I'll leave. Anyways, it's your turn Anko-chan. Anko nodded and looked around at all the teens. Alright kiddos, my name is Anko Mitarashi, though you already knew that. Naturally, I absolutely love Dango. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. I love my friends too. I like and value honesty and I like my job quite a bit. I loathe Orochimaru of the Sannin. I also dislike Jiraiya of the Sannin for personal reasons. My hobby is pretty much in my job description. I enjoy torturing people, it's fun, and my dream? I dream of one day killing Orochimaru and finally being rid of this damn seal, she said, revealing her curse seal to them. Keep in mind, this is me showing you kids a little trust. Trust goes both ways, and it's better to be honest with one another than to hide things like that. Shit like that can get you killed out there. Yugo nodded in agreement before she pointed at Sakura. Alright, let's go in order. Team 11. We'll start with you, Sakura. you can start us off. The pink-haired girl nodded and said, my name is Sakura Haruno. Blushing slightly, she looked into Naruto's eyes and decided to just say it. I love Naruto-kun. I like my friends and I enjoy spending time with Naruto-kun. I dislike bullies and rapists. My hobbies? Like Ino. I enjoy tending to flowers and spending time with Naruto-kun. As for a dream? I have 2 dreams, actually. I want to become a kunoichi that surpasses Tsunade Senju someday, and I want to create a family together with Naruto-kun. Naruto was blushing as he looked at his girlfriend. He honestly had no idea that she felt so strongly for him. Rather than freak out or anything, he simply smiled at her and said, love you too, Sakura-chan. Blushing prettily, Sakura kind of shrunk in on herself from the embarrassment of the moment. Anko simply chuckled and said, that's so sweet, alright, you next. When her sensei pointed at her, Masuzu nodded and began to speak. My name is Masuzu Ichijo. I love my best friend here, Tashimi. I like my other friends as well, and I like to gossip about cute boys, she admitted with a shrug. I dislike bullies as well, and I dislike those that still support Sasuke Uchiha. Even now, my hobby is a simple one. I enjoy reading books of all kinds, though there are certain books I'll never touch, such as the Icha Icha series. I wish they'd all just burn. As for a dream? I'd kind of like to find a nice guy and settle down with him, though, it might be kind of nice if Tachan and I could share someone. She's like a sister to me and I never want to be apart from her. Tashimi blushed at this and asked, same guy? But, who would go for something like that? Do we even have the same taste in guys? Masuzu giggled and wrapped an arm around her friend's shoulder. I am sure we'll find someone just right for us both, you'll see. Anko smirked and said, I am loving my team already, this is fun. Looking at Tashimi, she said, alright sunshine, your turn, show us what you've got, do a little turn on the catwalk. Everyone blinked as they stared at Anko quizzically. Huh? The snake mistress blushed and rubbed the back of her head. Sorry, don't know what came over me there. Anyways, Tashimi-chan. Go go go. She cheered, throwing her fist into the air. Tashimi giggled and said, our sensei is going to be fun. Anyways, my name is Tashimi Nikki. I love my best friend here. I really like spending time with all my friends. I love flowers too. I dislike fish. I just can't stand them. A hobby. I kind of enjoy people watching, and my dream is pretty much the same as Masuzu-chan's. I want to get married and have a wonderful family with someone I love. Anko grinned and said, alright, because I like you girls already and I think that whole real genin test thing is a bunch of crap. I am just gonna say you all pass right now. Well, start training and all the fun stuff tomorrow. Right now, it's your turn to go Team 12. Make those bunnies proud. Saya blinked and said, I literally have no idea what's going on anymore. Naruto just shrugged and said, I kinda like her, she's fun. Anyways, I'll go first. I am Naruto Uzumaki, I love my girlfriends. And yes, that's plural, it's a polyamorous relationship and we're all happy together. I like training and getting stronger, if only because it means I can protect myself and those I cherish. I like my friends a lot too, and I love ramen. I dislike a lot of the villagers, but I am sure you all already understand why that is. I dislike rapists and bullies as well. My hobbies include tending to my garden, training, and studying everything in my family's library. There's just so much to learn in there. As for my dream, while most would expect me to say that I want to be Hokage, the truth is that I simply want to start a family with the people I love and be a good father to any children we end up having. Yugo and the others smiled at him. After a moment, she turned and pointed at Saya. Your turn, Saya. I am looking forward to hearing this. The pink-haired genius pushed up her glasses and began to speak. My name is Saya Takagi. I like my friends and my parents a lot. Underneath her breath, she added, I like Naruto-kun too, even if he's too stupid to see it. Unknown to her, both Anko and Yugo had heard what she said. What was even worse for her was the fact that Naruto, with his advanced hearing, heard what she said quite clearly as well. Naruto fought down the blush that wanted to creep up on his face, as he didn't want Saya to know he had heard her. Instead, he listened calmly as Saya continued with her introduction. I dislike how stupid some people can be, and no, I don't mean any of you, just the mass populace and how stupid a lot of people can be in general. My hobbies are twofold. I enjoy reading pretty much whatever I can get my hands on, whether it's a book or a jutsu scroll. I also enjoy studying the art of fuinjutsu. It's a complicated art that very few seem to dabble in. My dream is to become a fuinjutsu master, the likes of which this world has never seen before. The blonde grinned at her and said, if that's your dream, then you should come visit me at my house more often. My parents were both geniuses in the art. I've been studying Fuinjutsu based on their notes and books, and I've been making quite a bit of progress in the art thanks to those notes. I'd be happy to let you browse through all their notes and books so you can learn more about the art. I think you'd probably pick up on it faster than I would. You're much smarter than I am, after all. Saya blushed a bit and looked away from him. You baka. It's not about being smarter or not. Imagination plays a key role in Fuinjutsu, and you've got a far better imagination than I do. I am limited in my capacity.
Naruto poked Saya in the cheek and smirked at her. Then why don't we agree to work together to improve ourselves? I'll help you to think outside the box, and you help me to understand things a bit better. That way we both gain something from our forays into the world of Fuinjutsu. We'll both improve together. Sound good?
Nodding slowly, Saya smiled softly at him and said, that sounds wonderful, thank you, Naruto-kun. Of course, now Saeko-chan, you're up, Naruto said, grinning at the swordswoman. Saeko smiled at him before she closed her eyes and began to speak. My name is Saeko Busujima. I like Naruto-kun and my friends. I love the art of swordsmanship, and I'll admit it now. I enjoy violence, and that's putting it mildly. I dislike those who mistreat Naruto-kun. I also dislike them. My hobby is practicing my swordsmanship, and my dream is to one day marry Naruto-kun. It's as simple as that. Anko laughed while Naruto blushed deeply at the blunt statement. I like you, girl. I can tell we're going to get along great. You definitely know what you want, and you're not afraid to say it. Yugo giggled for a moment before she nodded. All right, team, as Anko suggested. I think I'll simply pass your team. I like you three, and it would be a shame if something were to happen that would ruin your chances at becoming the splendid shinobi you're meant to be. For now, we'll take you to a great shinobi supplies store and get you some much-needed weapons. If you aren't sure what weapon would work best for you, then you should ask one of us or the store owner. Everyone nodded and followed Anko and Yugo on their way to the store Yugo had mentioned. As they walked, Sakura stepped up beside Saeko and asked, did you mean what you said back there? You really want to marry Naruto-kun? Saeko simply raised a brow and asked, if I didn't mean it, would I have said it? Naruto-kun shall be my husband, it is as simple as that. I see. You really aren't afraid to go after what you want, huh? Sakura questioned, sounding genuinely impressed. You do know that he is going to marry multiple women though, right? That doesn't bother you at all? Why should it? If I get to be with Naruto-kun, then isn't that enough? Why complain about small details like that? I don't even mind if I fail to get his first time. I just refuse to be left out of his heart. We are destined to be together and I won't have it any other way, the purple-haired swordswoman said.
Huh. I can respect that. You should really try to talk to him about going on a date soon. You might really enjoy yourself, Sakura suggested before she left to walk beside her boyfriend and future husband. Leaning against his shoulder, she smirked up at him and said, you're pretty popular with the ladies, Naruto-kun.
Naruto chuckled and said, apparently so. Have to admit, I didn't expect it. I am not going to complain though. I am happy to have friends that support me now, just as I am happy to have you girls choosing to be with me. Kissing his cheek, Sakura smiled happily at him before they stopped upon reaching their destination. Stepping inside, they each looked around in awe at everything inside of the store. This place is amazing, Sakura said.
Why thank you, young lady. Welcome to the Higurashi supply store. What can I do for you all today? A burly man asked. He was huge with large muscles, a full, pointed beard and a small mustache. His hair was a dark brown and his eyes were a dark brown as well. Yugao smiled at him and said, hello there Higurashi-san, we've come to get weapons for our genin. We can't have them fighting them with simple kunai and shuriken, it just wouldn't work. Ah, of course, well then, what might you all be interested in? Ranged weapons. Melee. A mixture of both. Higurashi asked curiously. Saeko simply held up her katana and unsheathed it partway. I am set. I prefer this weapon over any other. The others, however, could use your guidance. Sakura walked up to a large single-bladed axe with an ornate wooden handle with engravings of some kind along the wood. The blade itself was magnificent with a brilliant sheen and it looked sharp enough that it could take the heads off of them with ease. She also noticed some kind of seal on the blade. Excuse me, what's with all these markings? Higurashi stepped up to her and looked the axe over for a moment. Taking it down from the display, he pointed to the various engravings on the wood. These are all tiny seals engraved into the wood. They have a variety of effects. There's a triple-layered strengthening seal here, and here, to ensure the weapon doesn't break. These two are weight seals. The first one will increase the weight of the axe to a point where you start to build up some real muscle when you swing it. Practice with it enough and, once you get used to its weight, Up the gravity again and make yourself even stronger. The other one is used to return the weight of the weapon to normal. This way you can swing the axe without having to worry about all that extra weight in combat. You'll be surprised at how powerful your swings are then. Looking the seals over some more, he pointed at the last one on the shaft of the weapon. This last one here will attune the weapon to your chakra signature. By pouring your chakra into this seal here, you'll be the only one that can wield the weapon. If anyone else were to try and so much as lift it, they are likely to break their arms in the process. It would be far too heavy for them to lift. As for the seal on the blade, that's used for when you determine your chakra nature. Once you've learned that and you've studied enough, you can focus your chakra into the seal and any number of things can happen. For instance, if you've got a fire nature, the blade will be lit aflame. It's as simple as that. Anyways, are you sure you want a weapon like this? It might be a bit much for you, Higurashi questioned unsurely. Sakura looked the axe over for a time before she nodded with a wicked grin on her face. This is perfect. It wouldn't see much use against enemy shinobi until I am stronger and faster, but for combating them. Oh hell yeah. Higurashi chuckled and said, very well then, I assume one of you has the money to pay for this. Naruto nodded and said, no problem, I can pay for whatever we choose. I'll let you girls choose first. I want to browse for a while until something really jumps out at me. The girls nodded while Saeko and Sakura stood back with Yugao and Anko. Masuzu was the next one to select a weapon. Oddly enough, she chose a kusarigama to fight from a distance as well as up close when needed. It was a simple enough weapon, and like the axe Sakura had chosen, this weapon had special properties as well, such as a strengthening seal, weight seals, etc. Tashimi picked a rapier, which was a somewhat unusual weapon. Considering its thin blade, it was meant more for piercing and quick thrusts than for slashes and cuts. While it was a questionable choice, she liked it and decided to go with it. For ranged combat, she chose a number of throwing daggers that she could pick up again after using them to kill opponents. What made them special was not only the fact that they would be attuned to her blood and chakra signature, but they'd emit a type of pulse that only she'd be able to sense. This would make it easier for her to find them and collect them again. Saya was the next one to choose, as she preferred ranged combat to melee. She chose a short bow with arrows that she could easily apply poison to. She also rather enjoyed the fact that the arrows came with their own seals. They were sturdier. For one thing, they could be recollected and reused as long as they lasted, and once she got the hang of her chakra nature, she'd be able to apply that to her arrows to make them even deadlier. It made for quite the handy weapon. Realizing that she'd need a melee weapon as a sort of backup in case things went south, she chose a saw-toothed dagger. Finally, Naruto found his weapon. A pole-like weapon with two curved blades facing in opposite directions on either side of the pole. Looking it over carefully, he realized that this was a kind of double-bladed scythe and it was quite the dangerous weapon, not just to enemies, but its user as well. This weapon had numerous seals embedded in it as well, and he realized that if he turned the pole in a certain way, it would split apart into a type of kusarigama-like weapon with both sides connected by a long chain. Reconnecting the pieces, he looked it over and grinned wickedly. Oh yeah, this is definitely my kind of weapon. Higurashi smiled at everyone and said, well, it looks like you've all chosen well. Make sure to treat your weapons right and they'll treat you well in return. Never treat your weapons with disrespect. Anyone who does will soon pay the price. Now, you said you could pay for all of this, correct Uzumaki? Come on over and we can discuss the price. I might even cut you a deal.
Naruto grinned and said, sounds good to me. I am definitely going to treat this weapon like she's a part of me. I'd never disrespect a weapon such as this. Glad to hear it. Now, all of these together costs. While Naruto and Higurashi bartered, Saya turned to Yugo and asked, so what are we doing next, Sensei? For now, nothing. You'll all do whatever you'd like until tomorrow. We have to wait and see how many of the other teams pass their true genin tests, and then we can start training, taking on missions, etc. And because Kakashi is going to be late as fucking usual. Anko giggled a bit and said, it's rare for you to curse, but I understand how you feel. Kakashi pisses me off too. Anyways, since we plan to train you all together, meet us at the entrance to the Forest of Death at noon tomorrow. We'll figure things out from there. I assure you, you're gonna just love my personal training ground. Why do I get the feeling we're about to enter a new kind of hell? Tashimi questioned, sounding genuinely worried. Anko simply smirked and said, you'll see girly, you'll see. After the genin had purchased their weapons and gone their separate ways, Naruto had decided to take a stroll through the village. He didn't want to head home right away, though he didn't have any particular reason for why not. He still noticed the occasional glare being sent his way, but for the most part the villagers had chosen to leave him alone. The people had mostly changed their minds about him. Or at least that's how it felt. There were still a large number of people who denied the truth about his parentage. And others that felt he was the demon itself, but most people had decided to change their minds about him. Sadly, those who changed their minds about him were a mixed bunch. Half of them wanted a shot at getting access to his vast riches. Whether this was via the use of arranged marriages or simply trying to seduce him, it didn't matter. The other half insisted on sucking up to him, just as they had done to Sasuke. Shaking his head to rid it of such thoughts, he rounded a corner and blinked at what he was seeing. Standing a short distance away was his sensei, Yugo Uzuku. In front of her, with his back turned to Naruto, was the guy that he assumed to be her boyfriend, Hayate Gecko. Taking a few steps closer, he listened as they argued. "How do you explain this, Hayate?" Yugo exclaimed as she held up a pair of women's panties. "And don't try to feed me any bullshit about these being some kind of present for me. You've been cheating on me all this time, haven't you?" Hayate coughed into his fist a couple of times before staring coldly into his girlfriend's eyes. "What's the point in denying it? You've already made up your mind about me." Naruto scowled at this and thought, he's not even trying to deny the truth. Fucking hell. Yugo seemed to be of the same opinion as she shouted, "You're not even going to deny it? Why, Hayate? I thought you loved me. I loved you, Hayate. I was ready to get married and have children together. I. Yes, you wanted to start a family, that's the problem, Yugo. I don't want children, especially not in a world like this. They are everywhere out there and I'd rather not bring children into the world while those things exist. Besides that, you insisted on waiting until we were wed to spread your legs for me. I am a man, Yugo. I have needs, and let's face it, you weren't meeting them, so yes, I slept around." Yugo couldn't even look him in the eyes anymore. She lowered her head as tears fell to the ground below. "Did you ever love me? Did you ever intend to be loyal to me? I thought we had something special." Naruto-kun was right. Hayate quirked a brow and asked, "Naruto Uzumaki? Is he the one that put these ideas in your head?" Yugo glared into his eyes and shouted, "Just tell me the truth. Did you love me or not?" The brunette shrugged and said, "Truthfully? Not really, Yugo. Like I said before, I am a man with needs and you weren't putting out. In a world where we could die at any time, or worse, getting turned into one of them, we should enjoy things while we can. So I decided to sleep around, so to speak. Maybe if you would have cast aside your dream of a happy life and given something back to me for my time, we could have stayed together like a happy couple, but..." Before Hayate could say any more, Yugo slapped him as hard as she could across the face, sending him reeling a bit, when he gave her the nastiest glare and began to swing his fist towards her in retaliation for what she just did. Naruto took that moment to act, feeling somebody's hand on his wrist like a vice grip. Hayate followed the arm until he was looking straight into Naruto's eyes. "And just what did you think you were going to do to my sensei? TCH, so it was you that put these ideas in her head. Fine, you want her so bad, you can have her. I am done with this shit anyways," Hayate said before he pulled his arm free and began to walk away. "Stupid bitch and her lapdog." Naruto glared at him and said, "At least apologize to her, you jackass." Hayate glanced back at Naruto and Yugo before walking off without a word. "Fucking bastard," Naruto said angrily, calming himself down. He turned to look into his sensei's eyes. Frowning at the tears streaming down her cheeks, he pulled her into a hug and patted her back gently. "For what it's worth, I am sorry, Sensei. I know it'll be hard for a while, but you're strong, you'll get through this, and if it helps any, you'll always have us. Should you ever want to confide in someone, we're a team now, and that means we'll be there for each other, okay?" Yugo looked into Naruto's eyes and said, "Thank you, Naruto-kun. Can you help me real quick?" Naruto smiled kindly at her and said, "Sure, what do you need?" "I want Hayate's crap gone. I was hoping you could help me remove his things from my apartment. I don't care what you choose to do with it. I just want it gone," Yugo said. The blonde smiled at her and said, "Sure thing Yugo-sensei, show me where you live and we can get right to work on that." Smiling at her student, she hugged him for a moment longer before she turned and began to lead him to her home. "Thank you, Naruto-kun." The next morning teams 11 and 12 stared around at the massive enclosure barring the way into the infamous Forest of Death. Staring past the closed gate, they saw nothing but darkness inside. Within the vast forest, they could hear the cries of many different animals and insects. "Well, this'll be interesting, at least," Naruto said with a shrug. It was at this point that Anko and Yugo appeared in front of them. Anko had a large, almost predatory grin on her face. Yugo, on the other hand, had a neutral expression on her face. She had applied some makeup earlier this morning to try and hide the fact that she had been crying, but she could tell that Naruto and a few of the other girls noticed. Offering them the smallest of smiles, she motioned for them to listen. Alright kiddos. Here's how this is gonna work, Anko began. This is my personal playground, I know this place like the back of my hand. What we're gonna do is simple. I've picked out an area within that we'll begin our training in. I am not sure how much your academy teachers taught ya. So we're going to begin with some simple chakra control exercises. Tree climbing and water walking are essentials, trust me. These simple exercises will save you out there when it comes to avoiding them. We're also going to determine your chakra natures and get you started on the beginning exercises for whatever your elements are. This might be an advanced exercise and not something the others in your graduating class will be doing. But we want to make sure you six are ready for absolutely anything we might encounter out there, understand? The 6 genin nodded and said, yes, sensei. Good, now. Before we step inside, let's determine your natures, Anko said, nodding to Yugo to pass out the chakra papers. Once they each had one, Anko said, what you're holding is called chakra paper. The paper will react differently depending on your chakra nature. Fire, it will catch fire and turn to ash. Wind, the paper will split in two. Lightning, the paper will crumple up. Water, the paper will become damp. Earth, the paper will turn to dirt and crumble away, understand? Everyone nodded in understanding. Naruto-kun, we'll start with you, Yugo said. Don't try to push too much chakra into the paper, you don't want to destroy it. Naruto chuckled lightly before he channeled his chakra into the paper. It split evenly down the middle, however. Both sides became damp enough to the point that the paper practically became water at this point. Seeing this, Naruto looked into Yugo's eyes and asked, is it common for people to have more than one chakra nature? Yugo shook her head and said, most people only possess a single chakra nature, however, with enough experience, they can learn how to use other elements. From the looks of it, you have a powerful water nature with a strong wind nature as well. We'll have to get you started on the right exercises. Saya, you're next. Saya nodded and looked down at the paper in her hand, pouring some chakra into it. She watched as a small, barely noticeable part began to crumple up before the entirety of the paper lit on fire and burned away to ash. Frowning in confusion at this, she said, it's obvious I have an affinity for the fire nature, but... Anko nodded and said, yeah, I saw it too. It seems you have a slight affinity to the lightning nature. With enough training, that should improve. But for the time being, well, focus your exercises on learning how to harness fire-natured chakra. Sakura, it's your turn. The pinkette nodded and focused, watching as the entirety of her paper crumbled away into dirt that fell harmlessly to the ground. Well, that one's obvious. I was kind of hoping to have a second nature as well, she said. Anko smirked at her and said, with enough training, you'll get there. For now, just be happy with what you have. Saeko, you're up now. The swordswoman nodded and channeled her chakra into the paper. It immediately became damp, signifying that she had a water affinity. That works for me, she said with a casual shrug of her shoulders. Masuzu decided she would go next. Pouring some chakra into the paper, she watched as the paper first crumpled up before it was set ablaze. The ashes falling neatly to the ground. Ah, fire and lightning. Very nice combination. Anko said, now for Tashimi. Show us what you got, girlfriend. She cheered, pumping her fist into the air. While the others' sweat dropped at the antics of Team 11's sensei, Tashimi simply giggled and poured some chakra into the paper. It crumpled neatly into a ball, resting in her hand. Neat. Anko clapped her hands to get their attention. Alright, we've got 2 water affinities, 1 wind affinity, 3 lightning affinities, 2 fire affinities, and 1 earth affinity. That's a pretty good mix. This means you'll all be capable of covering each other's weaknesses and get to be some kick-ass kunoichi. Plus Naruto, of course. Naruto chuckled and shrugged it off. Anko was unique and he wasn't going to give her a hard time. Seeing this, Yugo smiled at him before she turned and opened the gate. Let's get in there. We've got the perfect spot picked out. Make sure you stay with the group. It's dangerous in here. It's called the Forest of Death with a very good reason, after all. The genin nodded as one and followed their sensei into the forest. They were led through the forest, avoiding giant animals and insects along the way, until they finally settled down in a large clearing. The sunshine was beaming down through the treetops, providing plenty of light for what they were about to do. Turning to the genin, Yugo smiled kindly at them before she walked to a nearby tree. I am going to show you the first chakra control exercise. You will keep at this until we tell you all to stop. Now watch. And with that, the purple-haired sword's mistress began walking up the tree, only stopping when she settled herself down on a large branch. Saya, I have a feeling you already understand how this works, so why don't you tell your friends and we can begin? The pink-haired genius nodded and began her explanation. Yugao Sensei channeled chakra in the soles of her feet and essentially walked up the tree like how magnets will stick together. I assume that you need a finite amount of control to stick to the tree, too little and you obviously won't make much progress, while if you use too much, you're likely just going to destroy whatever you're trying to climb. Naruto-kun. This exercise is going to be hard on you. I have faith in you, though. Good luck. Naruto smiled at her in thanks. When Anko threw 6 kunai to them, one at each of their feet, they listened as she said, "You'll be using those to mark your progress. Some of you will naturally get this pretty easily. Others, like Naruto-kun, are gonna have one hell of a time trying to get this right." Sure enough, as Naruto tried to run up the tree, he just slid right off and fell on his head. "Ow," he said before grumbling a bit. "Okay, just need to apply a little more to it and I should be able to do it, hopefully." Meanwhile, Saya and Sakura had already reached branches level with the one Yugo was sitting on. Seeing this caused Yugo to smile at that. However, her next words made them worry a bit. "Good job girls, now, you're going to continue running up and down your trees until you're exhausted. I recommend aiming to reach the top of the trees, but be careful. If you start running low on chakra, then stop, don't try to push yourselves into going higher, just come down and rest." Nodding as one, the two Pinkets began both ascending and descending the trees until they felt comfortable enough to aim higher and higher. Misuzu and Tashimi were sharing tips between the two of them, doing whatever they could to make it up their trees. They were having much better progress than poor Naruto was. Then again, Saeko seemed to be having trouble as well. Odd. Speaking of Saeko, she frowned to herself as she kept blasting small craters into her chosen tree. It wasn't enough to impede her progress, but it was still annoying. No matter how much she tried to lower her chakra output, it just didn't seem to be working. Saeko was quickly growing frustrated with her lack of progress. However, before she could lash out in any way, Naruto placed a hand upon her shoulder. Looking into his eyes, she asked, What? Is something wrong?" Naruto shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. I just noticed you were having some trouble. I am, too. I either use too little or too much. Saeko-chan, I think you have an abundance of chakra, more than most people do. But, there's something else I've noticed. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like you're drawing in chakra from nature itself. I don't really understand it, but I can feel it." Anko quirked a brow at this and walked over to the duo. "Saeko, show me what you're doing. I want to see this for myself." Saeko nodded and turned, running towards the tree and trying to climb it once again. She almost reached the nearest branch, only to suddenly be thrown off by an explosion under her feet. Saeko expected to fall to the ground hard, but her beloved Naruto-kun caught her before she could. Blushing slightly, she smiled thankfully at him. "Thank you, Naruto-kun." Anko frowned and said, "Saeko, I think you've got a Kekkei Genkai. I've heard about a clan out there that has a unique Kekkei Genkai. They're nearly extinct, so not many people really know about them. This particular Kekkei Genkai is more like a double-edged sword than anything. This clan's Kekkei Genkai allows them to draw in natural energy from the world around them, allowing them to use senjutsu without needing to sign a summoning contract and going through all that mumbo-jumbo. The problem with this is the fact that the constant draw on natural energy tends to drive them mad to the point that they feel an uncontrollable urge to kill someone or something around them. If I had to guess, I'd say you're a distant relative to that clan. You share the same Kekkei Genkai, but it's diluted, to an extent, so, while you occasionally feel the need to kill someone, you're able to control yourself better than others in the clan could. I don't think they ever gave a name to their clan or the Kekkei Genkai, and there were very few notes that we could find, so you're in completely new territory here. We'll just have to try and work together to overcome this particular drawback." Saeko nodded in understanding before giving a shrug of her shoulders. "Very well. This just means I'll need to work hard to control both my chakra and this nature chakra as well. Thank you, Anko-sensei. I need to meditate for a time and try to balance out the energy within me. Naruto-kun, keep at it and you should reach the first branch soon enough," she said before going to the center of the clearing and sitting cross-legged on the ground. Taking a deep breath, she calmed herself and delved deep into a meditative trance. Watching her for a moment longer, Naruto nodded and proceeded to resume climbing the tree. "You can do it, Saeko-chan. Just as I can do this, we just need to put our minds to it and give it all of our effort and we should see an improvement in no time." Later that afternoon the genin of teams 11 and 12 laid on the ground, each of them panting as they tried to catch their breath. Smirking at them, Anko said, "Good job kiddos. Keep up this pace and you kids be just fine. That'll be all for today. Rest for a while and then we'll escort you back out of here. We'll even buy you dinner. Right Yugo?" Yugo was watching Naruto for a little while, a small smile adorning her face. When she heard Anko's question, she nodded and said, "Of course, Anko, I think after today, they've earned a little reward. The snake mistress allowed a small smirk to play at her lips. She had seen Yugao's gaze lingering on Naruto occasionally throughout the day, and this just cemented it for her. Someone's got a little crush. How adorable. She is so getting teased for this later. Naruto had noticed the prolonged stare as well. He had chosen not to ask about it in front of the others. However, Saya had a different opinion. It would seem, Yugo-sensei. Did something happen between you and Naruto-kun? You've been watching him with a smile all day. Yugo blushed deeply and tried to stammer out some kind of excuse. However, she found herself unable to form a coherent sentence. Naruto seemed to take this as his cue to speak, so she listened to what he was about to say. I spent some time with Yugo-sensei yesterday after our team meeting. It turns out Hayate was cheating on her. They got into quite the argument, and he tried to hit her. I took care of it and even helped her get rid of Hayate's junk. After that, we sat and talked for a while. Turns out that we get along really well. But no, nothing really happened between us, Naruto explained. The other genins nodded in understanding. However, Saya looked at Yugo once again and said, "You're starting to see what's so great about Naruto-kun, aren't you? Don't fall too hard, now, he's taken." Yugo just blushed worse and buried her head in her hands. "Stop teasing me already, please?" Anko smirked and slung an arm around Yugao's shoulders, hugging her against her buxom body. "Yugo, you've got nothing to be ashamed of. He's a good-looking guy and you've got a sexy bod. Just imagine the fun times you could have together." Yugo sighed and hung her head. "Damn it, let's just go." "Okay," she said before she began walking off at a quickened pace. Naruto hurried after her, not wanting to leave her alone in the forest of death. "After all, shouldn't we follow them?" Misuzu asked somewhat unsurely. Anko smirked at the girl and said, "Well, follow them, but at a distance. I want to see what they get up to when they think nobody's watching. Should be fun." The other girls, or at least a majority of them, seemed irritated by the possibilities. However, they followed Anko, making sure to be extra stealthy just so the duo wouldn't notice them. Catching up to Yugo, Naruto reached out and took her hand into his. "Yugo-sensei. Don't let their teasing get to you too bad, okay? They're only poking a bit of fun at us. Personally, I am just glad I could help you yesterday. Right place at the right time. That's how I am choosing to view it. As for that kiss you gave me, I know it was a spur-of-the-moment thing. You were upset and you still are. I know that I spotted the makeup pretty easily. You were crying again, weren't you?" The purple-haired woman couldn't look him in the eyes. "Yes, I was. I am sorry. Naruto-kun. I know I should have kissed you last night. I don't know what the hell came over me. You know I didn't mean to lead you on, right?" The blonde smiled and reached up, placing his palm against her cheek. Without a word, he reached up and began to rub some of the makeup away. Sighing, he pulled her into a hug and said, "It's okay to cry. Sensei, I'll be with you as long as you need me to be, okay? I know you're hurting right now, especially after he said those things to you. And before you even go thinking about it, you aren't some skank. You're in a dark place right now and it's my job, as your friend, to help you through this. I want to be here for you. I know you wouldn't lead me on or try for some kind of relationship so soon after what happened, so you really don't need to worry, and, if need be, I can tell the others to stop teasing you. I think telling them the truth about everything might help. But that's entirely up to you. I just want you to know that I care. Sensei, I am here as long as you need me." Yugo blushed deeply and proceeded to bury her head in Naruto's chest. Hugging him back, she simply allowed herself to smile and feel comfort in his presence. After a few brief moments, she looked into his eyes and leaned in, capturing his lips with hers as she had done the night before. It only lasted about 5 seconds, but it certainly left Naruto in a trance-like state. "Thank you, Naruto-kun. I appreciate you trying to help me. Just think of that kiss as a thank you for being such a good friend." Naruto nodded slowly, not trusting his voice at the moment. However, while he knew she didn't mean anything serious by it, he wanted more of that feeling. It took all of his self-control and restraint to keep himself from kissing her senseless. "Yugo-sensei's beautiful. Hayate, you threw away a real gem." Taking a moment to collect himself, Naruto simply smiled softly at his sensei and said, "You're welcome, sensei. Glad I could help. Come on, Naruto. You can do this. Stay in control. Don't let your baser urges get the best of you." Yugo seemed to notice his inner conflict and frowned. "Naruto-kun. What's the matter?" Pressing her hand to his forehead, she soon went wide-eyed and said, "You're burning up. Did we push you too hard today? Maybe we should take you to see a doctor. Anko can lead the others out of here, why don't we?" Before Yugo could say any more, Naruto leaned in and began kissing Yugo. As they kissed, he pulled her flush against him and soon deepened the kiss. Slowly, she began to melt into the kiss, wrapping her arms around him and returning his kiss with equal fervor. When his hands began roaming her body, she blushed deeper, but didn't move to stop him. Naruto separated from her, breaking their kiss and leaving both of them wanting more. As soon as they caught their breath, the two of them began to kiss once again while Naruto's hands grabbed her ass, causing her to squeak in their kiss. However, she soon began to giggle before leaning in and pressing tender kisses along his neck and collarbone. After what felt like an eternity, they both managed to regain their senses and stopped before they went too far. As it was, his hands were nearly on her breasts, having slid up underneath her shirt quite a ways. Yugo, on the other hand, was a blushing mess as she tried to figure out what the hell just happened. However, these thoughts came to a crashing halt when Naruto suddenly collapsed. Quickly kneeling down, she felt Naruto's head again and cursed. After a moment, she looked over and watched as Anko and the other girls came out of hiding. Tease me and I'll kill you. Anko quickly shook her hands before her and said, wouldn't dream of it. Yeah, we were watching, but we definitely weren't expecting that. Saya nodded before she walked up to Naruto and felt his forehead. We need to get him to the hospital, something's wrong, especially if he can't control his urges. The others nodded in agreement before Anko lifted Naruto, slinging him over her shoulder. Together, they hurried out of the forest of death, aiming straight for the hospital. Please be okay, they thought as one. Hospital. 2 hours after arriving at the hospital, Naruto's usual doctor came into the room and frowned as he looked over the results of the blood test. Other tests had been conducted, of course, but nothing concrete had been found yet. However, as he looked over Naruto's results for the various tests that had been performed, he found something of an oddity. Walking up to Naruto's bed, he decided to take the boy's temperature. The result was an astounding 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Calling for some nurses, he ordered them to prepare an ice bath. They needed to cool himself and his body temperature down before his brain suffered damage from the overwhelming heat. As he waited for that, the doctor, a man by the name of Mitchell, looked at Naruto and shook his head. Physically, he's perfectly healthy, aside from the fever. That is, however, due to his unique condition as a Jinchuriki, he's bound to go through different stages, so to speak. However, fourth Sama's seal works. It seems to be siphoning the Kyuubi's chakra and adding it to Naruto's own massive reserves. This, in itself, isn't exactly a problem. Yes, chakra control will be a problem for him throughout this process, but this isn't really all that worrying. Sighing here, the doctor looked around at Naruto's teammates and friends. If I am correct, I think he's experiencing a kind of heat, just like any animal out there, like cats or dogs. Hell, experience whatever a fox would. In this case, he's gone into heat and, essentially, needs to find a mate. Tell me, when this fever of his first hit him, what was going on? As everyone turned their gazes as one to Yugo, she blushed a very deep shade of red and began to shyly poke her fingers together. We were talking and then he kissed me and we could barely stop ourselves from doing something we'd regret later. It felt so good, though, I could barely focus at the time. Mitchell nodded and looked back at Naruto. That's not at all surprising. In fact, from what I've gathered, it seems he has attracted a number of girls to him, not just you lot. Naruto is exuding pheromones that, just like an animal, are attracting potential mates to him. It's almost like a gravitational force is pulling girls to him, whether he or they realize it. Yugo, I think your close proximity to Naruto at the time is what caused you to lose yourself in the pleasure. It's a good thing you two regained your senses before anything could happen. Yugo blinked in confusion and asked, why's that, doctor? Mitchell looked at Naruto again and said, we ran tests on everything we could think of, including his sperm. As it stands, his sperm is incredibly potent. It's to the point that he can and will impregnate damn near any woman he sleeps with. So, if anyone wants to be sexually active with him, it would be best to make him wear a condom and for the women involved to be on some form of birth control. Sighing to himself, Dr. Mitchell said, Naruto is bound to be more aggressive and assertive while in heat. Once he's cooled down, he should be okay for a while, but there's no guarantee his fever won't spike again. I think the best solution to this problem would be for a willing participant to help him release all of his pent-up sexual frustration. Once he's had sex, he should calm down and begin to behave like himself again. Looking pointedly at Yugo, he said, you are in a relationship already, are you not? Yugo scowled and said, not anymore, that bastard was cheating on me. Mitchell nodded and said, all right then, however, until you've sorted out your feelings regarding Naruto. I want you to try and keep some distance between you. If you give yourself to him, even while he's like this, you need to be absolutely sure that you want to be in a relationship with him, otherwise, you could very well hurt him, even without meaning to. That goes for the rest of you as well. Don't just lead him on. If you truly love him and want to be with him, you can help him out, but don't just go jumping into a relationship so fast. Be absolutely sure that this is what you want. and please don't try to take advantage of his new urges to try and force him into a relationship with you." The girls each nodded in understanding. Yugo, however, looked at Naruto's peacefully sleeping face and said, "I never meant to lead you on, Naruto-kun. Kami, I must seem like such a slut. I was fully ready to have sex right there and then." Misuzu patted Yugo's arm and said, "No, you don't seem like a slut to me or anyone else here. None of us knew this would be a problem that we'd have to face someday. We're all so focused on getting stronger so we can fight them an enemy shinobi that we never considered something like this could happen, so it's not your fault, Yugo-sensei." Anko decided to ask the doctor something. "Doc, you said he's going to be more aggressive, right? Could we help him by allowing himself to unleash that aggression on missions that take us outside the village, or would that be too dangerous?" Mitchell frowned and tapped his chin for a moment. "You want to take your teams out on C rank or higher missions outside of the village? I assume you mean to let him run wild and kill as many of them as possible." "It's theoretically possible, but I wouldn't recommend it. Naruto isn't quite in control of himself at the moment. There's no telling what could happen outside of the village. I suggest that you stick to training your teams and doing what you can to help him through this confusing stage of his life, and, this should go without saying, but at least try to resist screwing his brains out. I can't stress that enough. I would also recommend warning the other teams of genin to try and steer clear of him." Stroking his bearded chin, Mitchell decided to drop another bombshell on them. "I would also recommend keeping him away from other men, especially if he feels that they're encroaching on his territory. He'll attack that person quite viciously, so for instance, if he sees Sasuke Uchiha walking too close to a girl he has feelings for, well, it would be in everyone's best interests to get Sasuke the hell out of there before Naruto can kill him, and before you get on my case about it, I am only using Sasuke as an example. I know what became of him, and I quite frankly don't care one way or another. My point is that it would be a damn good idea to keep him away from the other teams, especially if he likes one or more girls on those other teams." Saya scowled at this and said, "Then we definitely need to keep him away from Team 7. Naruto cares for Rei a good deal and seeing her with Takashi would probably set him off. As frustrating as Takashi can be sometimes, I don't want to see him die." Mitchell nodded and said, "Good idea. Still, it would be a damn good idea to warn the other teams to stay far away. It's not worth the risk." "Of course. Well, inform the others to stay away, and I think we should start some sparring to let him loose some of that aggressiveness. He needs a safe outlet to get out all that extra energy. Wearing him out seems like a good option to me," Anko said. "Good. Now, we're going to strip him of his clothes and give him a bath, so you might want to step outside for a while," Mitchell suggested. "Of course. Come on girls. Let's go get something to eat. They should be done by the time we return." "Okay," Anko suggested. Each of the girls nodded, eager to get some grub. However, as they were leaving the room, Yugo eyed Naruto for a moment longer. "To think, I almost gave in and let him make love to me, it felt so good." Giggling to herself, she shut the door behind her and followed after the others. The next day Naruto took a deep breath to try and steady himself. They had enjoyed some spars earlier, but now they were back to the tree climbing exercise. He wasn't entirely focused on the exercise, however, no, he was thinking back on what he had been told last night. "This sucks. Why the hell do I have to go into heat? All I feel like doing is rutting. I need to find a suitable mate. I almost went all the way with Yugo-chan yesterday. Would she have stopped me, or?" Glancing over at Yugo, he saw her chatting with Anko. "Would she have truly gone to that point with me? She's so damn hot." Seeing exactly where his thoughts were headed, he turned away and shook his head to rid it of such thoughts. "No. Focus Naruto, focus. Climb the damn tree right now. You can do it." Taking a deep breath, Naruto tried to relax and settle his nerves. After a few minutes, he began climbing the tree, taking it slowly as he began climbing higher and higher. He wasn't rushing it and he wasn't thinking about anything other than climbing this blasted tree. When he reached the third branch up, he sat down and took a breath to try and steady himself once more. "Okay, that's better. But I need to do more. First, let's try some meditation. It might help me calm down enough to really focus on this exercise." Down below, Yugo smiled as she watched Naruto. Her mind kept replaying the events of yesterday afternoon and she found herself unconsciously rubbing her thighs together. "Damn it. What the hell has come over me? I am lusting after my own student. I want his hands to roam my body again. Oh Kami, I want him." Anko saw this and snickered to herself. "Careful that Yugo, you should try to control yourself as well. Naruto-kun's doing his absolute best to get himself under control. You don't want to set a bad example for the kiddos, do you?" The sword mistress frowned as she thought it over. After a moment, she grumbled and said, "You're right, it just felt so good, though, I still feel all hot and bothered." I am sure. I think you might still be experiencing the effects of his pheromones, though. You sure you don't want to go home and let me handle the kitties today? Anko questioned. Yugo quickly shook her head and said, no. I am fine, Anko. Really, I am. Taking a deep breath, she walked over to Saeko, trying to get away from Anko for the time being. How's your progress coming along, Saeko? The sword's mistress nodded in greeting before returning her gaze to the tree. Meditation seems to have helped me. I can now climb the tree to about the 4th branch up. It's still proving to be a tough challenge, but I think I am starting to get the hang of it. Trying to control my chakra when two forces are essentially colliding together is hard, but not unmanageable. Yugo nodded in understanding and said, I can only imagine how difficult it must be. However, you are making great progress. If I knew anything of senjutsu, I would be able to help you with this. Unfortunately, however, there are very few practitioners of senjutsu these days, so finding help would be difficult. Those with summoning contracts can learn sage mode from the clan elders, but that's about it. Just keep practicing and you'll have it in no time. I am sure of it. Saeko frowned in thought for a time before nodding in understanding. Thank you, Yugo-sensei. I will continue working on this. I refuse to give up until I've got this all under control. Glad to hear it. I am going to go see if anyone else might need a little help. Keep up the good work, Yugo said before she turned and began to walk off. Before she could get very far, however, Saeko gazed at her coldly and said, You're trying to avoid Naruto-kun. It was a statement, not a question. I've seen the way you've been gazing at him, and the fact that you keep rubbing your thighs together is quite telling. Please keep in mind what Dr. Mitchell said to us yesterday. That's all I am going to say. Yugo blushed deeply but didn't turn to face her student. No, she wanted to go and talk with the other genin for the time being, or maybe crawl under a rock and live there until she died, whatever worked. Naruto, meanwhile, cast a glance at Yugo's back and thought, she's having just as hard a time of things as I am, isn't she? I can't imagine how she must feel right now. I feel like I damn near forced myself on her yesterday. How are the other girls dealing with this so easily? Yugo-chan and I can barely even look at each other without blushing. Sighing softly to himself, Naruto proceeded to walk down the tree before taking a breath and then walking back up, aiming for the very top this time. You can do this, Naruto. Believe it. Anko frowned as she looked between Naruto and Yugo. They both want it so bad, it's obvious as hell. I just hope they don't regret it if they begin rutting like a couple of horny-ass rabbits. Well, not really my place to decide what they do with their lives. I am sure they're both confused as hell about all of this. Still, it might actually help them both if they did just have sex. Shrugging at her thoughts, Anko turned her gaze to Naruto and watched as he disappeared into the treetops. He's really pushing himself hard today. Guess he's gotta work out that pent-up frustration somehow. Still, might be a good idea to go up and keep an eye on him. As she got up to go after him, she noticed out of the corner of her eye as Yugo began to move. Frowning to herself, she decided to just leave them to it. She just hoped that Yugo had some form of birth control, because she was not looking forward to dealing with a pregnant Yugo. I swear, she's like a damned horny teenager. She'd better be serious about this. As Yugo ascended the tree, climbing higher and higher, she tried to pinpoint Naruto's location. However, the higher she climbed, the more worried she became. Finally, she called out, Naruto-kun. Where'd you go? Please be okay. Hearing Yugo calling out to him, Naruto walked down the tree again until he spotted her a little below him. Smiling at her, he pointed upwards and said, Sorry for worrying you, Sensei. I just decided to admire the view from up there. It's quite lovely. Breathing a sigh of relief, Yugo joined him up above and hugged him tight. I was worried about you, Naruto-kun. Don't disappear like that again, okay? Chuckling softly, he hugged her back and said, I am sorry, but... Yugo blinked as she looked into his eyes, but what? Naruto glanced away shyly and said, Are you sure we should be alone together after what happened yesterday? I don't want to take advantage of you when you only just broke up with that cheating bastard. I am sure you're still upset and really confused. I know I am. I feel all these urges right now and I am struggling to control myself. I don't want to force you to have sex with me after everything that's happened lately. Besides, you wanted to wait until you were married before having sex, right? Yugo nodded slowly and took a few steps back. You're right. I am very confused right now. As for Hayate, I don't know how to explain it. After what happened with you yesterday, I feel like I am already over the cheating bastard. I feel comfortable with you, Naruto-kun, and, you didn't force yourself on me. I liked what we did. In fact, I desperately wanted more of that feeling. Kami, I've been craving you all day. I honestly don't understand what's come over me, but I am sure it's even harder on you. You didn't ask for this. You are so sweet and charming and you always manage to say the right thing to make people feel special. Sighing heavily, Yugo looked into his eyes sadly and said, "You're right. I was planning to save my virginity until my wedding night, but," stepping closer to him, she placed her hands on his chest and leaned in close so her lips were mere centimeters away from touching. "You make me feel special, Naruto-kun, and I know that you would never hurt me. If I were to give myself to anyone, I think I'd like it to be you." Before Naruto could reply in any way, Yugo pressed her lips to his and began sliding her hands up under his shirt. Feeling his toned body under her fingertips was making her even more turned on than she already was. When they separated, the sword mistress smirked sultrily at him and said, "I just do not care anymore. I want to feel you inside of me now, please." "You don't want to keep your Yugo-chan waiting, do you?" As Naruto went to say something, he watched in a mixture of fascination and horror as she began to disrobe. When she was finally naked before him, he could see her glistening thighs, showing that she was very, very wet right now, and if he wasn't mistaken, he could swear he smelled her arousal. Whatever it was, he found it increasingly hard to resist her. We can't, Yugo-chan. We could be caught at any time, Yugo smirked at him and said, "You're not saying you don't want to do it. You're not denying it in the least. You want me. Just as badly as I want you right now. Don't try to fight it. Give in and make me yours. Ruin me for any other man." Naruto blushed deeply and tried to focus, but the more he looked at her and the more he thought about it, the more he lost control over himself. Finally, he removed his clothes and pulled her flush against him, his member resting against her stomach. "Once we do this, we can't take it back. Are you absolutely sure this is what you desire?" Yugao's answer was to kiss him deeply and grab hold of his rock-hard penis. Without a word, she moved it so it was positioned properly. "Make love to me, my wonderful Naruto-kun," and with that, the two lost themselves to their passion. Thanks for watching.